I'll go ahead and start this joint meeting, Oceanside City Council, Harbor District, CDC, for March 5th, 2014, and roll call, please.
Mayor Wood?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez? Here. Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Councilmember Feline? Here. Councilmember Feller?
Here.
Thank you. With that, City Attorney, please.
Thank you. Council meet on item 1, labor negotiations involving police non-sworn and MECO. Item 2, conference on existing litigation in the matter of Hearst versus City of Oceanside and Rio Vista Landscape Maintenance Association versus City of Oceanside. Item 3, conference with the real estate negotiator. Item 3A, the 76-acre Center City Golf Course. Under negotiations are price and terms for the lease of the property. Item 3B, El Coro Zone. Under negotiations are price and terms for the lease of the property. And item 3C, the 300 block of North Cleveland, Lot 23. Negotiating party successor agency to the redevelopment agency, City of Oceanside and Pelican Properties. Under negotiations are price and terms of the sale of the property.
During closed session. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start the first portion, or first half of our City Council meeting. With that, if I could have Mr. Clerk give us a roll call, please.
Mayor Wood?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez?
Here.
Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Councilmember Feline? Here. Councilmember Feller?
Here.
Thank you. And with that, sir, would we go to the consent calendar, please?
Yes, consent calendar items 4 through 11.
Move approval.
Second. Discussion from public or any?
No public on these items.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved 5-0.
Mr. Clerk, at your convenience, please, item 12.
Item number 12 is approval of a final participation agreement with the County of San Diego to remain a user of the Next Generation Regional Communication System, authorization for the city manager to execute the agreement, and direction to the city treasurer's office to seek financing for the total costs and report back to the city council with options and recommendations.
Thank you very much. Peter, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Honorable Mayor and members of council, Pete Lawrence, the Battalion Chief of the Fire Department, and the lead for the city on the Next Generation 800 megahertz radio program. Some background, essentially what we're doing is we're looking to replace the radio system that we're currently using, that we came on. The radio system itself came online in 1998. We became a user of the system in 2002, 2003. The system is providing interoperable communications throughout San Diego and Imperial counties. We can communicate, all city departments can communicate with their counterparts countywide, be it a fire department in Chula Vista or a building department in San Diego. We can all communicate on interoperable channels. The current radio system infrastructure, the backbone of it, is approaching its end of useful life, and it's going to need to be replaced at the end of roughly 2018. And that'll have been a 20-year life. Normally it's a 15-year lifespan, but they've been able to do some engineering to keep the system running, and the anticipation is by the end of 2018 it will need to be replaced. The overall cost, in a lot of the cities, they are dealing with it in a piecemeal fashion. The direction that we decided to go was to bring the entire project forward, so you knew what everything, all the costs were associated with this project, and not just the backbone, and then have to come back to you later with money for radios. The overall project cost for the city of Oceanside is about $8.4 million. Our previous system came online at about the same cost, 8.3, I believe. Out of that 8.4, 4.7 million is for the backbone, or the infrastructure costs to build out the system and upgrade all of the mountaintop repeaters, of which there's one here in town called Abbey, which is over there by Prince of Peace Abbey. About $650,000 of that 8.4 million is for dispatch center upgrades. That's for upgrading OPD and the microwave link from OPD to Abbey, as well as upgrading the dispatch consoles, the OFD portion of the dispatch consoles at Northcom. And then about $3 million, a little over $3 million, is for field user equipment. Most of the user equipment that we have, while it could be upgraded to work on the new system, by the time it comes online, that equipment will be between 10 and 16 years old. So the decision was made internally in a working group that we would look towards replacing anything that was over 10 years old, because the cost to upgrade wouldn't necessarily be recovered over the remaining life of that piece of equipment. We have explored all cost savings, and we've taken steps to reduce the cost to the city. The first was that last year over 250 radios were basically deactivated off of the system. We went through all the departments, all the users, and determined who truly needed to be on the radio system. With the improvements in cell phone coverage and data, some of the departments chose not to continue to use radios. Obviously, police and fire have to, but what that did was it removed 250 radios that we don't have to pay to upgrade and we don't have to pay the backbone portion on. So that saved or eliminated about $1.5 million in costs. About $9 million countywide has already been applied to the project in terms of grants, and that has reduced the overall cost for all of the agencies. And additionally, there is a lot of discussion and some agreement by all the countywide partners that the cost of upgrading the dispatch centers will be the next priority for grant funding, and so hopefully that $650,000 potentially will be covered by grants. So we have looked at alternatives and alternative funding mechanisms and reduced our costs. For time purposes or timeline, by the end of this month, the city needs to make a decision if we're going to participate in order to sign on to the next generation system without penalty. We have till the end of the year, but there's a signing penalty that it's approximately 25% of the 4.7 million. So our goal was that if we were going to move forward with it, that we'd do it without penalty. The Board of Supervisors had come to a final agreement on the participation agreement in December of 2013. So once that was provided to us, we started the process to come forward and present it to you. Again, by December of 31st, anybody who doesn't sign on by December 31st, because they have to then go forward with the funding and seeking funding in the RFP, they will not be able to participate on the system. In early 2015, we would need to pay the county for the infrastructure costs. Early 2017, need to do the dispatch center upgrades. And then in mid-2017, early 2018, we would need to replace the radio equipment. The goal is that by late 2018, the system will be online, and we'll transition from the old system to the new system. For alternatives, we really don't have many alternatives. We could go back to an old legacy VHF system, very high frequency. There are no 800 frequencies available for us. We have one, and that's it. We share it with the county. If we did that as well, none of the surrounding police agencies have maintained VHF radios in their units. So none of the police officers in Oceanside would have interoperable communications if they were being backed up in emergency by our surrounding agencies. Fire departments, we do have it, so we would have the ability to communicate with them, but we would have to leave the dispatch center and go back to police dispatch because we would not have the ability to be dispatched on a totally separate radio frequency band at Northcom. Again, the current system provides very robust interoperability and the ability to communicate all the way into Imperial County and for responders coming to us. So a VHF system, while some interoperability would be there, we'd be losing the majority of that interoperability by going backwards to a VHF system. In terms of yearly cost, I've been in contact with the Treasurer's Office, and I've worked with the Treasurer's Office to figure out if financing is available and to what term it would be available. And they've determined that realistically 10 and 15-year financing is available. 10-year cost at 4% is about a little over $1 million a year, and at 4.1% for 15 years, it's about $760,000 a year. As part of the RFP for the backbone system, the county is going to be asking that the vendors provide financing alternatives and options. And if the county decides to take them up on that offer, we would have the ability through the county to access that financing mechanism. So we have various alternatives for financing. In June of 2013, it was presented to you by then City Manager Peter Weiss that this project was coming, and at the time I think the decision was made to put approximately or earmark $450,000 towards the project into the Infrastructure Reserve Fund. What we found though is for the overall project it's going to be more than that. There are no other that I've been able to find existing funds or revenue sources out there for the project. Unless we were to earmark specific funds coming in to go into that Infrastructure Reserve Fund. Everybody always asks the question, what is everyone else doing? As of tonight, no current city or fire district. For those agencies like Fallbrook that are county unincorporated but run their own fire district, none of them have said they're not going to be signing and participating. So there's no exodus of participants. 14 of 17 cities have agreed to sign on and have already signed on. Oceanside tonight is discussing and debating it, and then Chula Vista and La Mesa are scheduled for later this month on March the 11th. Additionally, other agencies such as Vista Unified School District, UCSD Police, Poway Unified School District have all agreed to join as a customer for the RCF, and that again provides some reduction or I guess economy of scale on the costs. So the recommendations contained in the staff report, essentially what we are requesting is that the City Council approve the final participation agreement, that we authorize the City Manager to execute the agreement, and then ask the City Treasurer's Office to work on funding alternatives and options, and then come back to the City Council with them, knowing full well that some of the options may not become available to us until before the funding is due to the county. The county would be able to advise us if they're choosing that alternative of vendor funding. And at this point, I'll move over for questions. I've also brought with me Sue Willie from the County Sheriff's Department Wireless Services Division, who can answer any questions relating to the infrastructure costs and why that system needs to be upgraded, et cetera.
Thank you, Chief. Seated sidebar, we appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, public?
No public.
Back to the council. Councilmember Feller, please.
Thank you. here's where I'm definitely painted in a corner here, but it is, I think it's worthwhile to make this work, and I think we need to, the one thing that I do think we need to do is plan for 2038, so, or if we can get it to last that far out. So I move staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion second. Councilmember, Deputy Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We definitely need to be on the same system. I had already started to hear that we were starting to have problems with the current system, and that we needed to start planning for the next generation. So I really thank you, staff, for bringing this forward, and I am going to be interested in how we figure out the financing for this, but it is, as Councilor Feller said, and we don't always agree. So it is essential. It is essential to public safety. It's essential that we're all on the same communications system. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Feline, please.
Thank you, Mayor. With the changes in technology since we had the last system, are we going to have any additional capabilities with this system, or is it just simply replacing existing capabilities?
Mike. Now.
There you go. The system primarily is a replacement system. The technology has changed significantly since the system that was implemented in late 90s, which was really late 80s technology. It's a fully digital system. It runs on an IP-based backbone, and therefore there are some capabilities that it will provide that aren't in the system today. I can give you a couple of examples, one of which is that you can purchase GPS-capable radios, so that you would be able to, if you chose that feature, you would be able to locate a firefighter or an officer, which most vehicles have AVL today, but the handheld portable radios don't have that capability. So there's some limited data capability on this system, on the radios. It's also more advanced in terms of the interoperability in ways that we share with the City of San Diego. We are interoperable with the city, but this new technology allows us a higher level of interoperability across those two systems, where it's perhaps a little more seamless when you transition from RCS channels to City of San Diego channels. So it improves the interoperability to some degree, and it also provides the new technology as a national standards-based digital system, which means that there's interoperability potentially with other systems. It's P25 is the name of the national standard. That's been implemented in Riverside County, and Yuma County, Los Angeles County is moving towards that, and Orange County is migrating towards that eventually, a little perhaps on the same timeline as the RCS. So that provides interoperability as well with other regions. So it is definitely an improvement, but I would say that compared to most other local regions, we pretty much had already achieved interoperability through a non-technology manner, which was putting everybody on the same system.
Okay, thank you. In terms of your conversation with the Treasury Department, did the bidders mention what their terms were going to be? Are they providing 100% financing, or are they just providing partial financing with us to make up the difference, or how is that being discussed?
The county, I'll kind of start with the county part and then move to the competitive procurement. The county committed in the agreement that we are bringing forward for you to sign to providing agencies that could not or chose not to do their own financing. The county will provide a mechanism for financing. So we already know there are agencies that won't be able to do their own financing. And so the county is trying to poll those agencies to try to determine how much of the system they'll need to finance. And then at the conclusion, or as part of the competitive process, vendors will be asked to provide options for vendor financing. The county would evaluate those and determine as to whether or not that would be more cost effective, or if the county is seeking other forms of financing, either through the competitive open market or through another type of county financing. The county would make a determination at that point as to what would be the best terms and rates, and then seek financing through that method, and then would set up separate agreements with each of the agencies that wanted to participate in financing. So their financing would essentially be through the county. The county would seek financing for procuring the system.
Okay. I don't know if this will be a city manager question here, but in terms of the discussions with the Treasury Department, again, because of the controversy of the priority of debt and pension bonds, are we going to have to collateralize this debt? And if so, what are we going to be putting up as collateral?
Well, that's a good question. Probably all the new big red fire trucks we're going to buy. No, I'm just kidding. We have other things that we can collateralize it on, but as we talk about how we're going to finance this, whether it's going to be our own issuance or an issuance to the county, we'll have to talk about those things. One of the issues that we might want to talk about at some point is that we have a policy that doesn't allow us to borrow money from ourselves. There's not a law against borrowing money from ourselves, there's just a policy against borrowing money from ourselves. And if we go out and the commercial rate's 4% and we're making 1% return on our portfolio, I don't know, maybe it's something we might want to revisit at some point too.
Right, yeah, I just, there's all these hidden issues that come up, and obviously it seems we have three financing possibilities: the vendor, the county, and the city. And obviously we'll go with the best one that's out there, but I just think we ought to, I think this issue of collateralization is going to be an ongoing issue, and the fact that it wasn't discussed at all in the report, I think that's something that should be addressed in the future on all financing issues, on whether they're going to have to be collateralized or not. But it certainly seems like the project is definitely necessary and worthwhile going forward with, and it certainly points out that when your city's financially solvent, you're in a position to move ahead on these types of issues. So I think we ought to go ahead. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. One, it seems like in 2018 somebody's going to flip a switch and we're all going to be on the system at one time. Is that because you're building, you're phasing in the payments obviously as we go? So are we going to migrate to their system over a period of time? And by 2018 we're fully operational, or we hit to 2018 and the big switch gets thrown?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the first payment is due to the county after the RFP is awarded. So the phasing of the funding is tied to the process of building out the system. So the first chunk of money is due to the county on a certain date that the RFP is awarded. The next would be that we would have to be contracting for the upgrades of the dispatch center, which is going to take longer than just purchasing the equipment. So the last phase is purchasing the equipment. Some of our equipment is able to be used on the new system, and so that will just simply be a flash upgrade. Others, we will put that equipment into service on the old system, and then as they start migrating, and Ms. Willie can answer the transition of how we go from one day to the next, she can answer that question. But for us, we will purchase and have our equipment available and ready to go well in advance of that 2018 date, so that as the county upgrades, we can take advantage of additional technology and have more reliability on our equipment. So that's the reason for the funding phasing, and then I'll let Ms. Willie talk about how we're going to transition.
The size of the RCS makes transitioning from one system to another a significant challenge, and that's part of our implementation process, is to work with the selected vendor to ensure that the migration, which will depend upon their suggested migration, whether it's regional, but essentially it will be we anticipate that the process is going to take about 2 years to build out the infrastructure. Like I said, the system is extremely large. We operate sort of in cells, if you will, or zones. And so the transitions will probably be geographic based on zones, but they also anticipate planning into those timing as to when people will need to have the radios and the dispatch centers upgraded. So there will be a significant planning effort to bring all those things together.
Well, I guess the follow-up question is, we're going to be on time, we're going to do things, but maybe North County Fire lags behind and they won't be ready for 5 or 6 months till after we're ready. So what happens to them? does that mean anything to us? We don't have to bring everybody online at once?
Well, essentially, the system is being planned as a whole for upgrades, and that includes the dispatch center migration, the subscriber migration, and all the infrastructure. So that's all part of the planning. The same with the PD dispatches as the fire dispatches, is that's all part of the same coordination effort. I don't want to make it sound any less complex than it is. It will be very challenging, and that's why we're starting as early as we are. From a timing perspective, the intent is to release the RFP later this year. We expect that process will take approximately 12 months. And then the planning process after award beginning in 2015, we anticipate that process will take a good year to implement before we see equipment show up. And that means there's going to be a great deal of coordination. One of the things that the agreement lays out is it establishes, we have an advisory board now, the RCS Board of Directors, and the new agreement establishes another board. That the purpose of the new board is to oversee and coordinate implementation, which may be establishing various user groups by, basically by group, whether it's fire or law, public service, while the existing board of directors will continue to monitor and manage and oversee the existing RCS. And after 2016, the RCS board goes away and the new board will govern on the entire implementation.
Okay, I just have a couple more questions. Additional grant opportunities between now and 2018. The idea that, the state comes out occasionally with different grant opportunities, and who pursues those? Do we pursue those, or does the...
Those are being done by the countywide groups, the Fire Chiefs Association, Police Chiefs Association, and primarily what we've been leveraging are what's called UASI, or Urban Area Security Initiative grants, that are driven from the federal government to the state government to local government to provide for security in the event of terrorist or natural disasters in large urban areas, of which San Diego qualifies. So most of the grants have been UASI or Shish Gap funds, and that's what they continue to work towards. When the grants are brought to the county level, the Police Chiefs, Fire Chiefs Association, City Manager groups then look towards trying to apply what could realistically be applied.
Okay, and then the last one is that I guess there's some agencies out there that are thinking about this, and they may or may not come on by December 31st.
There's really two groups of agencies that we solicited with the agreement. There's all of the current RCS partners, and then we have agencies that use the system as what we call customers. Basically, they didn't pay the upfront infrastructure that all the cities paid, so they pay significantly higher monthly fees. They basically pay a monthly fee that goes towards infrastructure replacement. And there are a number of those agencies that have already signed the agreements and returned them to us. And there was basically a moratorium put on joining the RCS in 2008, and said you could no longer become a partner into the RCS. And that was primarily because we knew in 2013, 2014, we would be coming back and asking agencies to commit this significant amount of infrastructure. So we wouldn't allow them to be part of the partnership. We allowed them to use the system, but they have to pay these higher rates. But many of those agencies, I can give you some examples. I think he mentioned Cal State San Marcos. The university, all the universities were customers, and the university police departments, several have already committed, and we have others that are still considering. So that essentially just moves them from one category of user to a different category, which means they also would be committing to this agreement and providing the funding up front to build out the infrastructure. So at this point, we're anticipating that we will have more partners on the system than we do today, but not more radios on the system, just converting them from partners or from customers to partners.
This is my last question, I promise. So once we get these customers, will that lower our cost?
Yes.
Okay. We don't know because we don't know how many customers are going to be there, but that's fine. Okay, I'm good.
Mr. City Manager, please.
Well, Mr. Mayor, council members, thanks. This is a complex issue, and it's been going on for some time. And I appreciate the work that Battalion Chief Lawrence has put in. And I really appreciate the simplification from when he first talked to me about this, so that we could all understand what it is that they're talking about here. He has constantly reminded me that this is a citywide radio system. It's not just the fire department. It's police and public works, and so it's important beyond its emergency response needs. The action that he's asking for here today is to final participation agreement, approval of the final participation agreement. I just have one question. We're going to see this probably several times again, are we not, Battalion Chief Lawrence?
See this in, it's going to be brought...
The funding and other things will come back.
When the financing portion comes back, you will be provided by the Treasurer's Office, and I will work with the Treasurer's Office to do so. They'll come back after we've determined what is available from the county and what is continuing to be available on the open market. We will come back with options, and the Treasurer's Department will take the lead. I have built in what I think is going to be the top end of the numbers, so that if you are saying that we're going forward with this, we would be able to have funding for that maximum amount. I didn't anticipate coming back to say we want to spend $3.05 million on radios, because that would be part of the financing, the total amount of financing. But obviously, however you wish to do so, we can come back with purchases, et cetera.
No, I'm sorry. Perhaps you misunderstood me. I just thought that we probably would see it for some further actions. When we approve this, we're all in.
Yes.
Okay. But there'll be other times that you probably will see this again, and the actions we'll be taking in the future will be consistent with what we're talking about today.
Correct. And updates will be provided through the city manager's office on the status. And again, I try not to ever have to come back and say that my numbers were low. So I have looked at all the radios, I've figured out what we need to do, and been realistic so that I don't have to come back and say, that we need $3.6 million for radios instead of 3.05.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
My only response is thank you, County. Appreciate you coming up in the traffic and talking to discuss it. We do appreciate it. I sit on the JPA for North County Fire Dispatch, and it's certainly going to be important. And as we well know, every few years the entire county starts to burn down, and we all work together. It'd be nice for all on the same radio communications for everything. So we know it's very important. So I want to thank you personally for coming up, Chief, and the whole back audiences. Chiefs from the fire department, and I thank you all for being here for that. And with that, I'm going to ask for a vote, please. Thank you.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, when you have a moment, 13, please.
Item number 13 is approval of a change order number 2 in the amount of $256,000 to the contract with Bonsall Petroleum Construction Incorporated to accelerate the completion of the revised Elcora Zone Reclamation Plan Grading Improvement Project. Approval of Amendment 1 in the amount of $100,000 to the lease agreement with SoCal SCLP to provide a loan to offset a portion of the cost to accelerate the grading project. Approval of a budget appropriation in the amount of $256,000 from the Elcora Zone Reserve account to the Silica Reclamation account to pay for the contract amendment, and authorization for the city manager to execute the change order and amendment.
What was the first half again? No, thank you. Doug, good afternoon. Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, member of the City Council, good afternoon. Doug Edow, Real Estate Manager, City of Oceanside. The items that the city clerk mentioned, what this allows is for the grading to be accelerated. When the grading gets accelerated, we're hoping that the project can be completed as early as May 2014, but no later than July 2014. What this does in turn, it allows SoCal SP, who is the lessee under our lease with them, to operate the fields once we complete the grading of the pads. It allows them to plant their sod and install their irrigation in time to house the Surf Cup tournament and some other significant tournaments this July of 2014, as well as some tournaments again in August, September. What those tournaments in turn allow the city to potentially receive in the way of revenue, it could be substantial. Those tournaments are anticipated to generate about 10,000 hotel rooms, which in turn can generate about $1.35 million to the city, and the city gets 10% of that in TOT tax. Also, equivalent tournaments such as Surf Cup generate probably an additional $1 million per tournament in spending in the local economy, so that would also provide an infusion of cash to the city of Oceanside. These funds that are being required are from the Alcor Zone Reserve account, only allowed to be spent for grading operations and connection reclamation, similar to what we're doing with this project. If they can't be spent anywhere else, they would eventually have to be spent at Alcor Zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Please seat sidebar. Thank you very much.
No public on this
Back
item.
to the council. Councilmember Feller, please.
Move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
May I have a second to that? Councilmember, Deputy Mayor, you have comments?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. For the public especially, this does sound like a lot of money, more money into this project, but $100,000 will be coming back to us, and as well as some additional funds. Plus, this will get it online as quickly as possible to be able to start getting revenue from to the city for this. So this is exciting to get this to get these fields graded and get this activity going in Alcor Zone. This will hopefully jumpstart everything else there. So it's an exciting thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. If you would, item 14, and city manager is going up to the podium.
Item number 14 is adoption of a resolution to certify and approve the hiring of Peter Weiss as a part-time hourly extra help consultant assistant in an amount not to exceed $72,000 for the calendar year 2014 to fill a critically needed position to assist the city manager's office in completing a number of economic development and successor agency projects and to assist with Oceanside Harbor transition issues.
Thank you very much. With that, Mr. City Manager, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and council members. What you have before you is a resolution of critical necessity that I'm asking you to approve with some trepidation to move forward with the hiring of former city manager Peter Weiss as a project manager in the amount of $75 an hour, not to exceed $72,000 for the completion of the calendar year 2014. The reason I say with some trepidation is that I recommend this with full confidence in Peter Weiss' abilities and the importance of him to provide continuity with regard to critical, very critical projects for this community, including the development of Lot 19, Lot 23, El Corazon soccer fields, and the Swim Hall of Fame, the Pier Beach Hotel, Goat Hill, and the potential development of drive-in theater. Mr. Weiss, as you know, very involved and a known quantity for these developers. The only trepidation I have is the perception out there that when we hire retirees, that somehow this double dipping is encroaching on that annuitant retirement. I think that in this particular case, the community is well served and benefits greatly from having Mr. Weiss involved in his continued involvement in these projects. I would ask your support for this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Public?
No public on this item.
Thank you. Back to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to move approval. Mr. Weiss certainly has a lot of history with the city. I don't know how many years it is now, Peter. But he certainly knows our communities. He's really on top of these projects, and it would actually probably cost us more if we were trying to go out and find what I don't even think we can find the equivalent of this kind of consulting that he would provide us to help us get through these projects. So I am very happy to move this forward. Thank you.
So do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Feller, please.
I don't think there's any question that this is invaluable to what we need done here. So this is, I'm happy to take the heat for what the perception is. This is just too important for our economic development.
Councilmember Kern, please.
I'm happy to have Councilmember Feller take the heat too, so. One of the things, and I think Councilmember, or Deputy Mayor Sanchez kind of hit on it, the institutional memory that Peter has about these projects and dealing with these people, and these developers in the project over a long period of time. So it would be a longer process if we had to bring somebody up and bring them up to speed to do this. And people have to remember that we eliminated our position for Economic Development Director. So the idea that this would be a normal position that we would have full-time, Jay McVeigh was that person a couple years ago, and we've never backfilled that position. Tracy does a great job as the manager and on the day-to-day operations, but we don't have anybody to take on these big projects, and hopefully Peter can get it all wrapped up. It's to December 31st, right? So this calendar year, so Peter, you have a deadline. So to get them all done, get them all wrapped up between now and the end of the year. Thank you.
My point is I thought he couldn't wait to get out the door and go do wonderful things with his family. So I'm shocked that he wants to stay around a little longer. But on the other hand, obviously he wants to finish up a lot of projects and help the city of Oceanside. So I agree to that. I will say this one thing for the press. I remember getting a call not long ago being that the press was concerned that Chief of Police had retired but would stay around until we get a replacement and double dip. I mean, I just want to make sure that you understand this is a benefit to the city, and hopefully that'll pay off in the long run, and it's not that we're double dipping everybody, it's all about the cause, and we've laid off a lot of people over the years and kept those positions empty. So somebody with a natural ability to understand them, who's been involved in all of the aspects of these major projects in Oceanside, everybody's right. It costs us a fortune to go outside and try to find somebody that would be up to speed on it without taking forever. So I support it also. Later on, if there's a problem, Jack accepted the blame, so that's good. So we'll go ahead and vote on this.
Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you very much. Can I jump over to item number 25, please?
For this, I will defer to the
City Attorney, please.
Thank you. Item 25 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending the zoning designation for certain real property located on the south side of Mission Avenue between Carolyn Circle and Foussat Road from limited industrial IL to single-family residential RS to planned development PD, Mission Cove Zone Amendment ZA 12-00003.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. Clerk, any public on this?
No public on this item.
Please, a motion.
Adoption.
Second.
Thank you. I see no number. Please vote.
Motion approved 5-0.
26, please, Mr. City Attorney.
Item 26 is the adoption of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 29 of the Oceanside City Code by amending Article 2 sewer connections.
Thank you very much. Sam?
No public.
That's good.
Oh, actually, timeout.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Knott did want to speak on this particular item, so Jimmy Knott may come forward this time.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 126 Sherry Lane, Chair of the Water Sewer Committee, Vice Chairman Utilities Commission. I came in here at the last meeting about 10 seconds too late to talk, but I need to come forward to basically express the concerns of the committee and of the commission. This item was recommended to go forward with a provision opening for a recommendation for consumer protections and or city sponsorship of self-insurance or external insurance or recommendation, some form of compliance for groups that can be protection for the public. Because there are private companies out there that have abused the public in the past. And when other cities have brought this type of situation forward, there has been huge issues brought forward to their city councils. We wanted to make sure that there was some form of consumer protection. So this was basically brought forward to you with a provision for a future opening of some form of consumer protection. Staff agreed to this. I did not see this within the provision that was brought forward to you. I did note that the Councilmember Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Sanchez, did bring this forward, but it was not basically acknowledged by the City Council. I would like for that to be basically brought forward to you and to be put into this. Also, since then, I have found out that certain lining companies guarantee compliance within other jurisdictions when laterals are basically brought forward for lining and interconnections. The city may want to take and make sure that any form of lining would have this certification by companies that would take and be doing any business as such in the city of Oceanside. So I would like to take an act, ask for that to be considered in your motion. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, please, you forgot to address that for us. We have a motion and a second on the table anyhow.
Perhaps I could have the Utilities Director come down here and address this. We did talk about the current ordinance placing a value on this. Mr. Attorney, was that $100?
I think that we had mentioned the last time that there already was a pre-existing miscellaneous encroachment fee for, I want to say $100. I don't know if that's what you...
Perhaps you can shed some light on this, if you wouldn't mind.
Happy to. At the last meeting, council directed staff to go back and develop a reasonable fee for the encroachment permit, and we're in the process of doing so. The item that Mr. Knott mentions regarding having a company come in and represent citizens on their laterals is something that's being discussed in the Utilities Commission and will be discussed in committee next Monday. So that's still in process, but it's not not a part of the action this evening.
Will this action have any limitations on bringing that back?
No, it won't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please vote. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Councilmember Deputy Mayor, your light came on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to explain that I am supporting this, and thank you, Mr. Knott, for bringing that up. But I am supporting this based on the discussion that we had at the last meeting, where we did talk about finding a reasonable fee, which would be less than $100, and that it would be also with the Utilities Commission and staff pursuing consumer issues regarding the laterals. That was something that was discussed. I did bring it up that this was discussed at Utilities Commission, and staff did indicate that they were going to be working on that and bringing back a report. So that is why I am going to be supporting this. Okay. Yes, there is.
I'm sorry? I thought we did. I'm sorry, sir, please.
So, second.
Second. Any more comments, please? Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved 5-0.
Thank you very much. If you go back to item 20 for the city attorney, please.
The City Council met in closed session to discuss several items. Item 1 was conference with labor negotiator, I should say, involving the management employees of the City of Oceanside and Oceanside Police Officers Association non-sworn. There is no action to report. The council discussed 2 litigation items, neither of which has any action to report. That was Hearst versus City of Oceanside and Rio Vista Landscape Maintenance Association. Again, no action to report on those. And then 3 real property items. Item 3A was conference with real estate negotiator involving the Center City Golf Course. Under negotiations are price and terms for the lease of the property. Item 3B was negotiations involving the El Cor Zone property. Under negotiations are price and terms for the lease of the property. And item 3C is the 300 block of North Cleveland Street, also known as Lot 23. In that case, the negotiating parties are successor agency to the Oceanside Redevelopment Agency, the City of Oceanside, and Pelican Properties. Under negotiations in that matter is price and terms for the use and/or sale of the real property. Again, there's no final action to report on any of those items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, some people in the audience, we'll do the items on council reports, and then we'll break for a few minutes at 5, let's say, for some setups for some proclamations and awards, etc. And shortly after that, we'll have public communications. I see we have some. So it'll be shortly after 5 or close to 5:30 when the audience. With that, Mr. Clerk, could we have council reports, please?
Yes, Mayor Wood.
First one is myself. Always busy, and the rain we needed, but it was a little strong. But hopefully everybody survived the heavy rains. I noticed my pool, when I throw a hose in, it takes me forever to fill it up, and it rained this last time. It filled it up in about an hour, so I think it's pretty strong rains. Certainly we needed it, and hopefully there's more snow in the mountain in California for the water. The other thing, really minor in the sense for me, I was guest speaker at the Boy Scouts of America, Santa Margarita District, for the Eagle Scouts, all the Eagle Scouts in the area. And there's a lot of them. There are 62, I believe, with all their family and parents. I received the Team Eagle Award from them, so I want to thank them here, saying I appreciate that. And they are great people, because most people know the Eagles later are going to be the leaders somewhere in the community. So I'm very happy and proud that I got that. The only other thing that I'm sure some of us will talk about anyhow in their reports, and I'll make it brief, that I went to Ollie Sparrow's memorial for him passing away, mainly to honor he and his family, and I know everybody in town seemed to be at the event, and we ran out of chairs, but with that, I'm sure somebody else will cover that. Other than that, later on I'll announce that the City Council workshop is on March the 12th at 2 p.m. at this location on budget priorities, in case I forget to say it later on. That's all. What? Oh, it says here. But anyhow, thank you very much. Well, when it brings up, we'll do it again, but treatment center, thank you very much. With that, that's all I have, please.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you. I went to Washington, D.C., along with a couple of our staff folks, Carrie Dale and also Michelle Lawrence. And we met with, in 4 days, 2 days, the first day travel, the last day travel. So 2 days, we were able to meet with the offices of Senators Boxer and Feinstein, Congressman Issa, Army Corps of Engineers, Departments of Reclamation, Interior, and Justice. So we packed that all in 2 days. We had some very, very good discussions of particular importance, of course, our water projects, river, the Army Corps, finally getting to the point where we can get some resolution for our residents, especially with flood insurance. With respect to the Department of Justice, it was a really good discussion. It was having to do with our gang prevention intervention project. They were letting us know that there was an initiative coming up, and we were invited to be part of this initiative. So it's very, very exciting. And we actually left before it really snowed. So we got to see snow falling, which hadn't seen in a long time. And then I would like to send our love and prayers to firefighter Wes McGee and his family, and our family of firefighters. Thank you.
Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. It's been a busy time since the last meeting on Thursday the 20th. I had the opportunity to go to the Chamber of Commerce Sunset Mixer at the Legacy Brewing. What amazed me about that facility is they have pictures of our important founding fathers along the wall, and I would challenge all of you to visit sometime and see if you can put the right names to the right pictures, and have you know I got 100% on the first pass, so I'll point that out. Had the opportunity to go to the reception for the Tri-City Hospital Foundation and recognizing their new leadership team. On Saturday the 22nd, went to the American GI Forum, their annual dinner. And then we also had the Oceanside American Little League opening day ceremony. It's always great to see new businesses open in Oceanside. We had two. First one went on Thursday the 27th to Anything Imprinted, their business grand opening. And then that night, unfortunately, had a horrible conflict. The mayor covered us at 1. I went with other council members to the enlisted recognition dinner sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce to honor the great achievements of our enlisted ranks in the military at Camp Pendleton. and I was unable to attend the Eagle recognition dinner. To congratulate the mayor on his award. He certainly does attend many events, and as an Eagle Scout myself, it's always great to see the support of elected officials. On Friday the 28th, went to the Troop 752 annual spaghetti dinner. They used to fund their troop activities. And on Sunday the 2nd of March, we had the Mardi Gras brunch to support the Art Museum. I have to say, Karen and myself, we won the contest for the best mask for couples. Now I'm forced to concede there was only one entry in that category, so the competition was easier than it might have been. On Tuesday, on a sad note, we had a memorial for former State Senator Ollie Spiro. He first was elected public office in the Long Beach area, and I'm proud to say that when I was a young political activist, I walked precincts for him when he first ran for public office, and he was certainly an individual that you never regretted having supported, and he always conducted himself in the utmost integrity before he moved down to Oceanside and became a well-respected member of our community. Our second business opening was Studio 78. That was on Tuesday the 4th. And closing up, on Monday, we had the swearing-in ceremony for new San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulkner. It was great to see San Diego step off on a new start with the controversies they've obviously had the past year. And I think it's important that, San Diego is a regional leader. When they do well, we all do well. And so we wish them the best and propelling our economy forward for our whole area. And of course today, this morning, we went to the first annual North County Economic Summit, and I am proud to note that our city manager, Steve Jepson, was a speaker on one of the panelists, and he represented the city quite well. Thank you.
Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. How did you do, or Deputy Mayor Sanchez, promoting Melrose back at Washington?
It was not a topic.
It was on the list. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I certainly attended all the functions that have been mentioned so far, and I just want to mention a couple of things coming up. There's still tickets for the Vance fundraiser this Friday at Outback Steakhouse. And Seroptimus International is having their luncheon on the 19th, where most of us will be serving. The thoughts and prayers go out for all those that are struggling in ill health in this time. There's just seems like we're getting to the age where it's going to be something we talk about every time. So anyway, prayers to the families that are suffering.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I did attend most of the events that Councilmember Feline alluded to, so I won't talk about the list again. The only thing that I really want to talk about is I'm the representative of the San Diego County Water Authority, and if you haven't followed along in the news, we've been having a rate litigation lawsuit against Metropolitan Water District. Well, I just want to be happy to report that we won the first phase of that. That the state has determined the way that Metropolitan establishes a rate are in conflict with Proposition 26, they're in conflict with the California State Constitution, and they're actually in conflict with common law. So those three main issues the judge decided in the favor of the ratepayers of San Diego County. This summer is the second phase, is about the monetary damages that should be awarded. We will find out how that happens, and then more than likely the appeals will start. So we had a discussion with our attorney in San Francisco, and the timeline is probably 2 years before we have a final conclusion of this, but we started off very, very well. The idea that the judge did agree that the way Metropolitan does stuff is not legal. So I think that is going to be very significant to us. And to the point, it's probably a $2 billion difference over the next 20 years about what our rates will be on the transfer of water to the metropolitan system, the wheeling rates coming out of Colorado. So follow along. I know it's a complicated subject, and it's quite hard to bring everybody up to speed on just a couple minutes, but that is a very big deal for us, and I encourage everybody to follow along what's happening with that litigation, because that will mean money in your pocket. So with that, I am complete.
Mr. Feller, please.
Thank you. I just had one other thing. I wanted to acknowledge that Mr. Jepson had been gone for pardon me, a couple of days, and he left the city in very capable hands with George Buell and Michelle. I never got so many emails about rain and damage as were put out there, and it was nice to be informed, so thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take a break right now till maybe, let's say, 10 minutes after 5. If you haven't been here before, out the doors, up the stairs, restrooms and water. We'll come back with the second phase of the council and public comment on some things. Recess for about 10 minutes. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second half of the City Council meeting. Large crowd, and I thank you for it. A couple of minor things. If you have a phone or a pager, put it on vibrate or silent. That would help a lot, and in case it won't interrupt us. We have some presentations and things to go through at this phase. My aide will be doing most of that. And when we do the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, stand after that. Feel free to sit back down. We'll say it, but then we'll get into some of the presentations. I'm really thrilled tonight for you and on TV. We have a championship, state championship team here tonight. With that, Valerie, please.
We would ask that you all stand at this time for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. This evening, our City Clerk, Zach Beck, who's also a youth pastor for Gateway Community Church, will be leading us in the invocation.
Let us all bow our heads. Father, we come to say thank you. Thank you for the privilege, the blessing, the honor it is to live in this wonderful community. Thank you for the diversity that exists within this community, and for the privilege we have to be able to work together to improve what can be a better community that we live in Oceanside. So Father, tonight we come to seek your guidance, your wisdom, your discernment in the deliberations and decisions that are to be made, that are constructing the policy that will continue to impact this community. And Father, that we come here with different backgrounds, different beliefs, and yet one thing that unites us all, and that is the fact that we love Oceanside. So we just seek your guidance for the rest of this night and for every day beyond. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we have the Soccer Club of Oceanside Black Breakers boys under 10, who happen to be the Cal South State Cup champions, and I'd like to call them forward one by one. We'll begin with their coach, Jorge Garcia. Team manager is Jacob Fisher. And the president of the club, Anthony Benvenuto. The players this evening, Christian McElroy, Bodie Fisher, Wesley Hastings, Logan Lipton, Diego Longacre, Joseph Medzinski, Cesar Ortega, Ashton Pierce, Alberto Renteria, Dylan Tomayo, Gregory Torres, and Dominic Wicks. And also on the team, but not here this evening, we honor William Darling.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and thank you. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry I'm doing the pledge. Usually that's after. Good try, that's what got ahead of me. Who's doing it? That's close.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. I'm sorry about that, but first off, parents, when we take pictures now or later, you can move wherever you want to go and take the pictures. That's what it's all about. For a lot of you in the audience right now, they already scanned the audience for the prayer, and these girls are on it already. And you can get copies from KOCT, or when it replays a couple of times, make copy for the grandparents and friends. But I'm really honored tonight. We decided to make team of the, well, every time we have a council meeting, a team of the month, basically. And we did it for a couple of reasons. They say Oceanside. They represent the city of Oceanside, all of us. And local, county, state, sometimes national. This is their opportunity to be seen on TV locally in front of their friends and parents. And we get to say thank you for representing the city of Oceanside, the parents, the team members, the team moms, everybody else. Please become a representative of our city and Oceanside everywhere. and they make us very proud, and that's one of these evenings tonight. We have medals around their necks, but I look at them and I don't know how they can carry them, and it says Sports Authority State Cup, Cal Southern California champions. Let's hear it one more time for this great team. Boy, did they represent us too now. And I'm going to pass the mic to the coaches. Anybody else? This is time for your parents to move around, take pictures. We'll get the video later, as you know.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the city for inviting us here. It's a very special moment for the boys. They've had their good times. You know, we battled a good season, had a good season, came in second in league, went on to win a couple tournaments afterwards, but then the big one, State Cup. There was 86 teams involved for Southern California, and out of those 86 teams, after 3 weekends, these boys ended up victorious and really represented the city, Southern California, and it's just been, for me, we've only won 4 state cups in our club, dating back to the foundation of the club, which is in 1977. So only 4 state cup championships, and we're one of them. In this age bracket, state cup championship had not been won at the U8, U9, U10 level, and these boys did it. So I'm really proud of them. Their support that their parents have given them and given me, and the city for their support. We're really appreciative, and I look for greater things to come. This is the first year with this team, and I look forward to their future and their development. So congratulations to the boys, and I'm gonna.
I want to recognize another thing, the coach here, who's done a wonderful, if not great job. Where do you work?
The library.
City employee, hey, how's that? I'll pass the mic here, but I want you folks in the audience who are like me, you can't see that far, the ribbon goes around here. State Cup, Governor's Division, Cal South. That's big, ladies and gentlemen, as popular as soccer is in this state. To be champions in this, not only this coach, but the other ones who I'm going to pass the mic to. This is a big event, ladies and gentlemen.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for inviting us here. I'd like to echo your words about every month they invite a team here to represent, to be in the team of the month. This is the team of the year compared to all the other teams in California. And we're proud as being the president and all the executive board members. When they asked us who should represent Oceanside, it was the easiest decision that we've ever made. We're very proud. We're proud of the parents. All 35 competitive teams that we have. We still have our olders going, I think, starting next week. So hopefully we'll have our 5th State Cup champion standing up here next month. We have a great bunch of parents and kids representing. Thanks.
We're going to take some pictures, but I want you to see the medal and the ribbon that they got here for us. The other thing is I have these groups up here like this, state champions. It's for my benefit. Later on, when they're very famous, whatever field they go in, I'll have a picture that says, I knew them back when. You know, it's important. That'll get me through some of those lines and those booths, whatever, so it'll pay off in the long run for me. We'd like a photograph, if we may. I'll go on the far side. You guys get here. Move up now if you want to take those pictures. Okay, thank you very much. $5 each seems like a reasonable price. Remember, we have 2 reporters behind you in that corner. The waiver. One last thing, are any brothers and sisters out in the audience that want to come up in the picture? Come on up if you're brothers and sisters. State champions, I'm in Southern California. Come on, get right up there. Come on, get up there in the front. Let me see you. Another photo op here with the girls. Come on, guys, get up here. You might as well be in one of these really important pictures. Do we get all the pictures we need? Coach, it's to you. Let's hear it one last time, please. Guys, thank you, library. I'm sorry, I apologize.
Next, we have our presentation for Pet of the Month. And from San Diego Humane Society's North Campus, we have with us tonight Elkie Wills with Slick.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know why his name is Slick. He's like the total opposite of that. He's about a 5-year-old sweet little poodle mix. Who I just met today, and he was found as a stray in Oceanside. It seems that he really wants to play with other dogs, and I think he's going to make an incredible lap dog. I've been here for about 45 minutes, and he's just been kicking it on my lap, so I think he's going to make somebody an incredible companion. His adoption fee is $95, which includes his neuter, his vaccinations, his microchip, and some other bonus things as well. He's located at our San Luis Rey Road location, and so he is available for adoption, and we open at 11 tomorrow for that. I just wanted to remind everybody that our telethon runs March 22nd, and we are on right after a March Madness game on Channel 8 from 7 to 10. It gives you a great opportunity to learn more about us and what we're doing and what our plans are for the future. And then, of course, please spread the word about our spay and neuter program. It's a financial needs-based program, but World Spay Day was on Tuesday, and we spayed and neutered 50 animals that day for free, and then we gave away another 100 for free. Normally, pricing is anywhere from $35 to $75, which is very affordable, and also pit bulls are free as well. So again, needs-based, but please spread the word. We like to fill up those slots. We're in Oceanside twice a week, doing 25 animals a day. So let everybody know. Thank you.
Thank you. They deserve applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an off-leash park, 2.5 acres. Take your dogs down there. They can run free. It's all fenced in, AstroTurf. It's wonderful, plenty of seats, socialize together. They split it up with big dogs and little dogs so they don't intermix and they'll get hurt. Also, they have all the dogs down there up for adoption. And over by the airport, we have the cats and bunnies and other things. I was in there at least 3 times recently just to look at the cats and kitties and bunnies. So they're all there. Please get involved, do something about it, and get these dogs. And they're wonderful. And as for a mascot, they'd be wonderful for some of you people in the audience, that's just seen. And they're wonderful down there. The other thing that I will add, they don't push it. They like volunteers down there that will walk the dogs and do things down there, and we get a lot of volunteers down there. I think they're a wonderful group of people helping these animals, and we get some great ones up here, and I see them down there. Please get involved, either helping, sending money, or go down there and adopt somebody. Like it would be good for the new family here in town. I'll pass at that. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation of a certificate to a local Oceanside business called The Compound. And at this time, we'd like to call forward the owners, Claudia Ortega and Sean Loeffler. And with them is Anthony Formosa. This is a certificate in appreciation of the work that The Compound has done. On behalf of the Oceanside City Council, I, Mayor Jim Wood, gratefully acknowledge the contribution of the owners of The Compound, Claudia and Frank Ortega and Sean Loeffler, for their leadership and dedication to our Oceanside community. The hard work and commitment that you have exhibited daily are a true testament to the mission that your organization has always professed, to provide opportunities for others in need within our city. I further applaud the compound's involvement in the numerous charitable works that your organization has participated in. The food drives for the Interfaith Community Services, Toys for Tots, fundraising for the Wounded Warrior Foundation, blanket and sock drives for Brother Benno's, teaching free self-defense seminars, and more. It is with pride that we now acknowledge the good works by the compound and its staff and wish you many more years of success in the future.
We're really proud, to be, my dad was Carlsbad police officer. Frank, her husband, was a Marine, a sniper Marine, still teaches on the base. He's a U.S. Marshal now. I love doing volunteer work, being in the UFC and teaching women how to defend themselves. Kids, we do a lot of anti-bullying, which is huge nowadays. We do a lot of food drives and trying to give back to the community. We love Oceanside. We're so fortunate to own a fighting business here where Marines and local residents support us. We do all the after-school programs for the high schools, the at-risk teens and stuff, which there's a few here. So with all the different demographics, we really like to give back. Anyone's always welcome at the compound. If you can't afford it, just talk to me or Claudia. We're a family business. We're an Oceanside business, and we're about America and about helping people out. I'm going to introduce Anthony. He does a lot of the grant writing and the real nitty-gritty work that goes to giving you guys stuff back, the kids and the women and the children and the veterans. So I'm going to introduce Anthony, and he can just give a quick thank you. But I want to thank you people here because we wouldn't have anybody to teach if it wasn't for you guys and people at home. So thank you very much.
How's everyone doing? Doing all right?
Happy.
I just want to thank Valerie Carpenter for helping set this all up for us. Thank the Honorable Mayor Jim Wood for, pulling down the city. And, obviously Sean and Claudia, I wouldn't be here. A lot of our, our fighters, the community of Oceanside, wouldn't be where we're at if it wasn't for you two. So let's just talk about us. We're a fitness gym, and we also teach the fighters to be professional fighters. We have a 90% win ratio. We definitely love representing Oceanside. Other than what we do, we're sitting around the office thinking, how can we be better stewards of this community, of this great city of Oceanside? How can we be at service? So we set up an anti-bullying campaign with the local high schools and middle schools. We have a monthly women's self-defense seminar that's free and open to anybody. Anyone's welcome. And they've all been successful, and we plan to make it grow. So again, thank you.
That's part of the reason why you got the certificate, number one, but now we have one beauty and three beasts. It's your turn to talk.
We don't do what we do for any recognition. This is pure flattery to receive this. It's quite an honor. We don't do anything that we do to get any type of accolades. We do it because we can. So,
thank you guys.
Thank you.
And we know that. That's why we're giving you an award. That's why. And thank you very much. We're going to get a picture option here, and let's get it. Hold it. It looks better because they won't look at the three of us.
For our last presentation of this evening, we have a proclamation in honor of Angel Aviles, and we'd like to call him forward at this time. This proclamation is in honor of Angel Aviles, who's been selected as the 2013-2014 San Diego County Veteran of the Year. Whereas Angel Aviles has served his nation through many years of public service and sacrifice, and whereas Angel has First served in the United States Army from 1953 to 1955, and then began serving in the United States Coast Guard from 1955 through 1974. And whereas Angel served in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and whereas in 1967, during the Vietnam War, Angel was awarded the Purple Heart and 2 Bronze Stars for valor and bravery while facing the enemy. And whereas the public service career of Angel included working as a U.S. Customs Service inspector, a special agent for the Treasury Department, a special investigator with the Department of Justice, and as an intelligence officer for the Federal Law Enforcement Association. And whereas Angel was selected as the 2013 Veteran of the Year by the Association of the U.S. Army and the 2013-2014 San Diego County Veteran of the Year by the Veterans Museum and Memorial Center. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, do hereby commend the accomplishments of this great patriot based on Angel's dedication and commitment to our nation.
Mamma mia, what a spicy meatball today. I'm going to tell you guys a joke before I start. Does anybody know why Italians don't like Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, let you know, Italians don't like any witnesses. Anyway, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. I joined the service when I was 17 years old. Went to Korea, and that's when my life started. I saw a couple of soldiers bleeding, and I don't know what to do, and I took my shirt, I took my pants, everything I got on myself to start the bleeding. I took leaves from the trees. I took the strap from the end rifle, tied them up, started bleeding. And years ago, they told me where I learned those techniques. Believe me or not, I learned that at the Boy Scouts. You'd be surprised what you learn when you're in the Boy Scouts, you know, and that's where I got my 2 Bronze Stars, you know. 1968, I got my Purple Heart with the United States Coast Guard. The Iraqis would burn all the oil rigs. We got on the boat, and we tried to stop them. We did stop them. I hit quite a few of them. That's when I got hit, you know, but here I am. The only complaint I got in my life is when I came home from Korea, nobody welcomed me home. I went to the airport. I got to take the Greyhound bus to get transferred to go home, Bronx, New York. And the same problem happened in '68 from Vietnam. Went home, go to Kennedy Airport with my uniform on, and there were a bunch of hippies over there protesting about the Vietnam War. And about 5 or 6 of them, they spit in my face. What are you going to do, you know? Since that day on, I made a commitment myself that I don't let that happen again. For the last 16 years, I've been helping the veteran one way or the other. If I'm healthy, I will help them. About 3 months ago, I got a call from the VFW, a lady who needs some money. I guess the check was showed by the government, and she needs like $50 for gas, and the babies buy some food. Well, go to the procedure, take 3 or 4 days. I call her in the front and meet me by the base, by Dunkin' Donuts at the base. I gave her $150 in my own pocket, and it wasn't the money, but made me feel good when I do something for a human being, you know. And I don't think I want credit for what I'm doing. I think I'm doing my job. I joined the United States Army, United States Coast Guard, to protect my country, and I'm still doing it. One way or the other, as a law enforcement, no longer a Boy Scout, but, I'll tell you some of the techniques. Once again, I'd like to thank the council, the mayor, all of you for here today, and once again, God bless you all.
If I may, ladies and gentlemen, once in a while you have different veterans that have done wonderful things. So I know Jerry Kern and other people here in the council are always involved in it. Would you come up, please, for a photo op for this gentleman? I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of everybody, but I'm also going to pass the mic to somebody else. Sir, please.
Hi, my name is Ron Ballin. I'm the district commander for the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. My district covers San Diego County, North Oceanside, and part of Imperial County. We're very proud of Angel. He's a long life history of dedication to not just the country, but the people in our communities. God bless him, and thank you.
Would you like to say something, of course? You're always up here.
Oh.
Somebody out there, okay.
Well, I would like to thank everybody who's here today as well, and really do appreciate the honor that's been bestowed upon Angel, my husband. And I'm very proud of him. His children are proud of him. Grandchildren are proud of him. And it's so wonderful to be here. And we thank you very, very much. Thank you.
One more here. What picture alone?
Get over here, and come. Oh, right here.
Let's hear it again for him, folks. Thank you. Thank you for your representation in the area, sir. I appreciate you coming down. First off, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the delay, but it's always nice to honor people who've done wonderful things, kids and teams and parents. So we apologize sometimes that we do it, but we sure appreciate it and taking your time. With that, we're back on the agenda, if we may. And the next one would be public communication. Do we have any?
Yes, we have one member of the public wishing to speak on items not on the agenda, Jimmy Knott.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. Tonight I have some news which is sort of sad, but also I have news that is also pleasant and hopeful. I'll start off with the sort of sad news. This appeared in last month's paper, and it shows that our murder rate here in Oceanside is higher than in New York City. This is sort of sad for our city, and it's a challenge for us. I think that is something that we took our eyes off the ball, and what we need to do is refocus. We need to look at some issues, we need to take and start tracking things, and we need to start taking and looking at some issues that are important to our neighborhoods. So that's sort of sad and a challenge for us. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and sad news, but it seems like I've been doing that lately. Now for some happy news, which is good as well. At our recreation centers, over at the El Corazon Center, at the Melba Bishop Center, and Joe Balderrama Recreation Center, we have Wi-Fi. So anybody that can go to those centers, you can bring in your tablet, your computer, whatever you have there that you want to take and access. And also, like as an example, over at the El Corazon Center, if you take and have a wedding and you take and want some music at home that you put together or some sort of show, or let's say if you have a business and you take and have a business meeting there, you can access your material now from home. Or from your business, you can take and access it there and have your presentation. So it's opening up some new possibilities. So I wanted to take and make that open and information to the public that we do have those opportunities. Thank you.
No further public on this item.
Thank you very much. And when you have a moment, please, item number 22, please, public hearing.
Item number 22 is adoption of resolution approving tentative map RT13-00002, development plan RD13-0003, and regular coastal permit RRP13-0004 for the construction of a 17-unit residential condominium development located at 620 through 712 South the Strand through 700 South the Strand. Applicant McKellar McGowan LLC.
Thank you, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, I got to get back and open this. Okay, ladies, I'm sorry. Mayor, open this public hearing and ask for disclosure from council members. I'll start down there with council member Feller, please.
I've heard from staff and the project developer, and personally, I'm just thankful this is finally here and going to be done.
Staff and developer.
Staff.
Staff.
Staff, the developer, people on the Strand, when I walk by the property, and I think this is the fourth time we've gone through this, so hopefully this will be the final one.
Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Clerk, presentation, any correspondence or petitions?
None.
Thank you very much. And John, back to you. I apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Community Development Commission, Mr. Jepson, Mr. Mullen, Mr. Beck. I'm John Hilmer. I'm a contract planner serving as the city's downtown area manager. As Mr. Beck says, this is a public hearing. Why isn't this up? There we go. Public hearing for the 700 South the Strand 17-unit condominium project. Here is the photo of the site. It's surrounded by a green line there. This photo was taken 2005 or before. It shows the project known as Siesta by the Sea. Wisconsin Street is the street on the right going down to the beach. Pacific Street is right behind the project. The frontage of the project is probably 267 feet long along the Strand. This is 8 parcels. This is the Siesta by the Sea project was vacated in 2005 and demolished in 2008. It's been, as you can see, this is the current site conditions. This photo was taken last year. You can see it's unsightly, the remnants of an old retaining wall in the background here. A little bit of a background in 2008. Councilmember Kern was mentioning other projects there. In fact, in 2008, the CDC did unanimously approve project here known as Pacific Blue Project. It was 24-unit subdivision. It had 56 subterranean parking spaces and had a very tall retaining wall along the bluff. It pretty much filled up the site. The currently proposed project before you now is now 17 residential flats, 36 mostly at-grade parking space. There's no subterranean parking. It's got a contemporary architectural design. There's a new fire access way from Pacific Street that was not on the previous proposal. And the resolution includes a outline of an agreement to improve the Strand and the seawall and the revetment. This current project would supplant the Pacific Blue project if the CDC approves it today. There is a outline of the tentative map and site plan. As you can see, the site, the project pretty much fills the site. There are 5-yard setbacks on each, 3-foot setbacks on each side, consistent with the zoning. There are 8 units on the bottom access in the middle of the site. You can see at-grade parking in the back. With the next, what is in your packet but I don't have here, is the second story. There are 9 units above, going back to the back of the project. The project is contemporary architectural design. As you can see here is a schematic. The applicant will be making a presentation, has some additional renderings to show you it as well. Approximately 20% of the site will be landscape or trees, shrubs, ground cover, and hardscape. This project meets all downtown zoning ordinance requirements, with one exception. The zoning ordinance has a requirement for a 6-foot height standard for walls. This project proposes to replace the existing retaining wall in the back with a new soil nail retaining wall that should vary in height from 12 to 19 feet. Wall heights can be exceeded through the zoning ordinance with the approval of a variation. A variation is part of the development plan. The staff supports this higher wall for a number of reasons. One, replaces the currently unstable retaining wall, provides protection of the unstable slope, and lastly, of course, it will protect the structure. The findings for the variation are in the resolution before you. The project also provides a new fire access point to the rear of the building from Pacific Street. This is a relatively new addition to the project to meet fire department requirements. This new access will be done through a new stairway from the bluff that will bridge the gap between the retaining wall and would connect to the building's second-story deck in the back. The stairway would be accessed via a locked gate down from Pacific Street. And this would be for fire department use. This stairway is intended for emergency use only, and as I said, was a recently late addition to this project to meet fire department standards. Lastly, I want to discuss the improvements on the Strand and the revetment. The city and the applicant have had a number of discussions about this, and we agreed that it's in the interest of both parties that the Strand and the revetment would be improved not only in the project's frontages required for all projects, but would be improved from the project southward down to Wisconsin Street. This would be done through a cooperative agreement, which is outlined in your staff report and is also contained in the resolution. These improvements are specifically not included in your consideration today, and they will be permitted through a separate coastal permit. And the process for this agreement, again, is outlined in the staff report and in the resolution. Staff's concluded this project is consistent with all the findings that are required in the zoning ordinance, including that it's consistent with the redevelopment plan, the downtown zoning ordinance, except as I outlined regarding the variation for the wall height, and applicable policies and standards of the local coastal program. 2 LCP policies of interest here. One is the LCP requires that there's public access every 500 feet between Tyson and Wisconsin Street. I would note that there is public access from Pacific Street to the Strand at Wisconsin Street, approximately 100 feet south of this project, and via Ash Street, approximately 130 feet north of this project. Also, there's a second applicable policy regarding prohibition on slopes greater than 40% that exceed 25 feet in height. The slope behind this project is about 19 feet in height, so therefore it is consistent with that policy. Again, just to go over why staff believes this is a very good project, from the project that's on the books now, this decreases the density from 24 units to 17. It eliminates a lot of the issues that were involved with the subterranean parking. That subterranean parking was 10 feet below grade. It eliminates the very high retaining wall at the end of the property against the bluff. It reduces the construction costs and the construction schedule. We believe this can be built a lot quicker. It provides this better level of emergency fire access by the stairs I previously described. And it provides, we believe, a very good process to improve the Strand and the seawall and revetment project. So, in conclusion, staff recommends that the Community Development Commission adopt a resolution approving these entitlements before you for this project located on the 620 to 712 South of the Strand. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have, and the applicant has a short presentation as well.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat at sidebar. Mr. Clerk.
This is a public hearing item. Any members of the public wishing to speak on this item may come forward at this time.
Excuse me one second, Mr. City Attorney. Applicant first.
My apologies. The applicant may come forward first to
I'm
present.
sorry. Thank you very much. Anyhow, and he got how many minutes? 20?
I won't need to.
Good evening, sirs. I say sirs, I say Flo. The whole aisle kind of lifted there for a minute, but please, I think you have 20 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, for response, and then public.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, everybody else. I'm Larry Taylor with Taylor Group, Inc., 301 Mission Avenue, Suite 201, Oceanside, on behalf of the applicant, McKellar McGowan, LLC. There we go. I am not going to spend a lot of time going through this because John has done an excellent job of covering pretty much everything on all my slides. The project team that's here, the applicant developer, McKellar McGowan, Chris McKellar and Tim McGowan are both here tonight along with other colleagues of theirs. Kirk McKinley with the McKinley Associates, the project architect, is here to answer any questions on that. John Patterson with MGP Inc., the landscape architect, is here, and I'm Larry Taylor with Taylor Group. We're doing the civil and geotechnical work on the project. John's already showed you this. Although he annexed this other building into our project site, it's actually not. He also showed you another version of this. As he said, the old Siesta by the Sea was torn down back in the mid or late 2000, about 2007, I think, late 2007, 2008. It had been a problem for the city for a number of years. There were people breaking into the old hotel rooms, building campfires indoors. There were problems securing the site. So ultimately, under code enforcement action, the place was just torn down. John generally described the previously approved project. It was recommended approval by the RAC in 08, unanimously approved by the CDC in October of 08. I won't go through the details again, other than say it was a much larger project, additional 7 units of the whole level of below-grade subterranean parking. The constraints of that project included, and I think John mentioned this, the height limit, as I think you all know, along South Strand is the center line of Pacific Street. Pacific Street slopes down in this area as you go towards Wisconsin. So it's about 2 feet lower on the higher on the north end than it is on the south end, and the height between the center line and the existing grade down on the Strand varies from about 19 to 21 feet. So that's kind of a compressed window. That's on the previously approved project. That's kind of what pushed all the parking underground, because the applicant for that really wanted to maximize the density. And even though at 24 units, 28 dwelling units per acre was below the allowable 43, it's still a pretty dense project. By pushing it down, we're going down into the groundwater. We're by the ocean. So there were a lot of challenges with doing that. Would require excavation below groundwater level, dewatering, etc. Complex drainage and stormwater systems were required because there really wasn't much of the site left to do anything with drainage, so it was all draining into the basement garage, some of it being stored for rainfall harvesting reuse, other being pumped out, lots of pumps, lots of mechanical systems, kind of complex. That was basically the basement footprint of the previously approved project, or the currently approved project, I guess we would say. That was down at about 3 feet MSL, which is sea level. Actually, sea level is a little lower, but the groundwater level is about 4 back here and about 3 out here. That's a section. I won't go through this other than to just point out all the red is the below grade basement excavation. That's kind of a cross section of the basement with complicated drainage systems, pumps pumping back up here, etc. So, as John said, we are proposing to reduce the intensity of use from 24 to 17 units. We still have the tentative map to process for that, or amendment to the previous approved tentative map. Actually, the dwelling units in this project are a little larger. I think in the previous project they range from about 900 to 2,300 square feet. For this project, they're fewer units, but they're actually a little bit bigger. Soil nail wall to replace the older walls. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And simpler, and in my world of engineering, simpler equals better drainage and stormwater management provisions for the project. This is sort of the theme, or the how the thing fits together. The green on this is on the ground level or the strand level. That's the living units. That is the parking access from the middle, 36 parking spaces back here. The other major component is the soil nail wall, which will go across the bluff to replace the deteriorating and failing variety of walls that are there now. And finally, because we're at grade, the stormwater management's being handled by an infiltration system beneath the parking area. Cross section, this gives you a sense of currently, if you look at this section, for example, here's Pacific Street, the bluff comes down to existing walls that are here. We are opening this up in the back partly or largely in response to the fire department's requirements to have 5 feet clear access behind the building. But this portion of the parking is actually open. There are columns that are supporting this upper level, so this is light and air coming through here, which opens the project up a little, and I'll let Kirk talk a little more about that. But this is what we are not doing. That is part of the currently approved project, this basement excavation, and this represents where the proposed retaining wall is, or the approved retaining wall is part of the approved development plan for the more dense project. So we're decreasing the impacts on the bluff quite a bit, obviously decreasing the volume of excavation and therefore all the impacts on the neighborhood and the community for hauling that stuff out, the time and effort involved in the shoring, excavation, dewatering, all that kind of stuff. So of the constraints that existed or do exist for the currently approved project, groundwater, we're not getting rid of the groundwater, but we don't have to worry about it. No longer have to do the excavation below that groundwater level, which eliminates most or all of the shoring and eliminates the dewatering requirements, simplifies the drainage, and really reduces what were nearly 30-foot high walls to about half that high. This is an example. This is actually a project we did a number of years ago on North Pacific Street showing generically what that soil nail wall will look like. This is colored and kind of textured to try to mimic the natural bluff look as much as possible. It's a shotcrete face. Behind this there are steel bars that are drilled into the slope at an angle back about 15-20 feet that reinforce the slope, and the facing really protects it against erosion, but this stabilizes that entire bluff. John mentioned the element of this project that was not in the currently approved project. And this came out of the fire department's review of this project. As I mentioned before, we're opening up about a 5-foot access way in the back here so that fire personnel can move around the back of the project. But they're also concerned that they need to get equipment and personnel into this site from Pacific Street. All the water is in Pacific Street. There's no water on the strand. So we have a hydrant that we're proposing to add near the middle of the site. This will provide access to the center area of the site, and at the center of the site there's a stairwell that provides access down to the first floor. And based on the fire department's review and evaluation of this project, they felt this was important to have this access on this side to give them reach to all of the units that they're going to need to get to. This is obviously schematic. It was put together by John and his group. But we're proposing to put this at a
location on the site where currently, and I don't know if it was previous failure or erosion, but generally that bluff on the back is quite steep. Near the center of the site, there's kind of a more subdued area, sloped down about 2 to 1, which will allow us to come down about a third or half of the way of the height we need to come down with just concrete steps in the right-of-way. And then this represents where the property line is. From there, we will have a bridged staircase across to the upper level of the building. This is a secure facility over obviously beachfront. You got to be concerned about security, so the intent is to secure this so that we don't have people wandering in off the street or vagrants deciding they'd like to sleep on the second floor in one of the nooks of this project. John already gave this comparison, so I won't go through it in detail. We're reducing the density. We're eliminating a lot of the challenges and constraints associated with the deep basement and the groundwater conditions at the site, reducing the complexity of the BMP management, reducing the construction impacts on the community by reducing the volume of excavation and the amount of time that it's going to take to do this project. And importantly for the developer, which is maybe partly what leads one to eliminate, we go out there today and submit plans for a 24-unit project, 7 more units in this one, arguably 7 units, maybe about $1 million a piece at the beach. $7 million to give up on a project is a bit, but there's an offset for the construction costs and the long-term O&M and the risk and so forth. So going with this design approach really eliminates long-term O&M operation and maintenance associated issues that would be related to that underground parking element. So just to summarize the merits of this project, and I may have mentioned this, but the previous project was unanimously approved by both the RAC at that time and this body. The current project, we went in front of the DAC in, was that October, John? Unanimous approval by that body as well. So we're improving on what has been unanimously approved in the past by reducing the intensity of use, coming up with some better design concepts, and improving the constructability and short-term community impacts. This continues to achieve a number of important downtown area objectives, which used to be the redevelopment objectives of eliminating beachfront or blight, but this happens to be beachfront urban blight. Doing something that's compatible with the adjacent land use and with what's going on in the area. Quality design, as Kirk will show you a little more about here in a minute. And abatement of incompatible and non-conforming use, which has been an ongoing problem on this property for a number of years. The soil nail wall will improve the bluff stability over current conditions for sure. And as John alluded to, this project provides for the public improvements on the strands and south to Wisconsin Street under a separate, what will be a separate coastal permit. I think part of the rationale or logic of doing it that way is the offsite obviously is city facilities, and particularly if we get into having to do modifications to the existing revetment, the shoreline protective structures, there are going to be likely conditions, O&M and monitoring conditions associated with that. Well, that's a city facility, and it would be inappropriate really to have those conditions tied to the private development project. So that's, it makes sense to do it this way. But there are conditions, as I'm sure you've read in the reso for this project, that tie the requirements of applying for that separate coastal permit, working cooperatively with the city to obtain it, and then timing issues about requiring that to be applied for before you can record a map or before other things can be done on this project. So there are hooks on that end of it. That is it. I'll let Kirk talk a little bit about the architectural elements of the project, and then we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kirk McKinley. I'm the architect on the project. I have some reduced renderings for each of the council members.
Clerk, please. Money. Just for your information, you have 20 minutes, you're down to 6:47. Just want you to know that. You guys gonna put the sand down there?
You actually, yeah, we're going to import it for you.
I'm sorry.
Larry has given a pretty good description of the building, so I'm just going to do a couple little additive elements so you're familiar with it. The project has 17 units. 8 are on the ground floor. They're the smaller units. They're 2 and 3 bedroom units. The larger units are on the top floor, and they're in excess of 2,000 square feet, so they're in the 2,300 up to 2,600 square foot. In fact, the center unit, as you can see on the panel on the screen there, is the largest unit in the center, which is where the drive lane of the building to get back underneath the garage is. There's been a lot of attention to detail in this building, not only on the outside, but on the inside. They're extremely high amenitized, both on the exterior and the interior. We're talking about, asking upwards of, $1.5 million for these things, so we really need to put our best foot forward in terms of the architecture and the styling on the inside. There is one interesting thing about the top floor units that I don't think you normally see. There is a courtyard in each one of those units in order to get light and air into the secondary bedrooms. This courtyard penetrates all the way up to the second floor, so when viewing the project from above, you are actually seeing breaks in the building and breaks on the roof structure. We're also, you can see from this is a roof plan. You can see how we've opened up those areas in the courtyards, and we're actually proposing to put a gravel roof on this building, so to have more texture on the building, rather than most of the roofs that you see on the Strand area are what is called a cap sheet. And you see the glue marks between where they put the cap sheet down. So you see these black, tarred areas, and they're really not very attractive roofs. We're proposing to put more of a gravel roof on this building. And with the breaks in the roof form, you're going to actually be able to look down and see some contours, some breaks, some texture in the building. The exterior of the building, as you look at the rendering I have before you, how do I get first rendering? Your first rendering. Yeah, we're just going to put it, thank you. The exterior of the building is wood, steel, tiled elements. We've got several awnings, but these are all of incredibly high-grade material. The idea here was to create the image of a high-quality building in order to attract the kind of buyer profile that we're going to be looking for in this project. And that level of architecture and that level of detail is carried into the interiors as well. The center opening in the building, as you can see where the car is going through, is the access to the garage below. We look forward to building this project. We're really happy about doing this kind of contemporary look on the beach, with the restrictions of the height and everything that we have relative to Pacific Street. This was you're kind of pushed into kind of a contemporary design. But this is an incredibly sophisticated looking building, and I think will be a great addition to the city of Oceanside. I'm prepared to answer any questions at your needs.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, 3 minutes left if you want to present something. Or thank you. Great, thank you very much. With that, Mr. Clerk.
At this point in time, any members of the public wishing to speak on this item may come forward.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. I like the project. It looks great, but there's only 2 concerns I have. And it's the same 2 concerns I've had for a lot of projects that face the ocean. First off, you don't see any tsunami protection. That has my concern for the people who may be purchasing or taking and visiting the project. The second concern is a progressive concern that the state of California shares with me. And that's due to predicted sea level rise, which will encroach higher and higher and higher with the increased storm and tidal effects. Also, this will present to the homes debris casting from the ocean and egress, basically problems for people who may be trapped. And according to the reports I've read, the state of California recommends that all developments that occur along the beaches take these into consideration. My question is how does this project mitigate for these impacts? Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item may come forward at this time.
Mr. Clerk, I see none. Gentlemen, you have a couple of minutes left. Are you finished? Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the public hearing and come back to the council. With that, Councilmember Feller, please.
Thank you. I'm sure you've taken into account sea level rise and tsunamis. It's going to be too bad for an awful lot of people if one shows up, but we can't protect everybody from everything. So I move adoption. I think it's a great project. It's been approved already for a much more intense project, and I'm glad to see that we can work together on fixing the Strand as well. So, in that area. Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion, second. Thank you. With that, Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have some concerns about the project. I don't know if I would be going with a separate, well, perhaps a separate request for permit for the revetment, but I probably would have done that first to see what the actual footprint could be if the actual footprint was going to be impacted at all. So I do have that concern that is separate, and if they're turned down by coastal, then we still have this project and yet no protection. That's one of my concerns. The other one is I understand this is an assemblage of lots. What is it, 8 lots? And it just looks so long and not broken up. It just feels like a wall. I'm not sure that we have that. That would be the first time we have something like that. And I know that we have a lot of people that like to walk on the beach, and including myself. And you talked about these internal courtyards. It would have been nice to have something like that to break it up, to make it look more interesting from the outside. This is what we're going to look at, not really. You don't really have much of a view on over the rooftop. It's just losing all of that much more apparently pleasing visual. So, and then my last concern is this the stairway. It's I have to say that I've never really heard of a requirement by a fire department for a stairway. It sounds to me like the intent is to just make it for public safety, only fire. But earlier today, I understand that you can that private citizens can actually, or residents can actually use it to get out, and on a daily basis. And that is not, that kind of defeats the private versus public stairways that that are really clearly delineated. You cannot have private stairways, only public. So I do have those concerns, and while I do really want to do something really positive there and make it look nicer, I think that I would have liked to have seen something that had much more character. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. None. If not, my only comments on this too. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Sorry it's late in the evening, but then again, we get to use you and abuse you while you're here. Mine would be a little different. I'd be glad to see something other than that trashy lot and chain link fence there. That's the thing that I hate. I wish it had gone on long ago. The design aspect of it, since it's all connected, it does look a little long, but I think I can live with that. And understanding all the way down the coast in either directions, they're all tightly packed together anyhow. The parking I'm happy about. I had a question. How about use of the roof? Is that going to be denied per se? Because I don't want people using the roof for their patio and extending it up more in footage. Anybody wants to respond? I just want to double check.
Yeah, no, there's no use on the roof at all. It's, you can't.
We've had several in the past that turned out to be the roof is the patio and makes it higher than the height. Anyhow.
Actually, I think Prop A is pretty clear. You can't have any.
Well, I just want to make sure because we had in the past people decide to use their roof later on as a part to add to the height. But the other thing in the picture looks delightful for the architects. I appreciate that. The only thing I don't recognize is the sand on the beach. That's all I have to say. And with that, let's please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
I didn't hear you. Thank you. Well, we'll come back in and bring it. Thank you. Anyhow, with that, ladies and gentlemen from that group, thank you for being here. Mr. Clerk, if you correct me, 23 and 24 left, is that it? Please,
Correct.
Would you go with the 23, please?
Item number 23 is the City Council quarterly budget update.
Thank you very much, and my part of this is a budget update, and I'm sorry it says City Manager Mr. Jepson, but on the other hand, Mr. Riley, welcome. First time in front of the council other than presented to him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our financial director in the city of Oceanside right now, and he'll be doing their presentation. If you haven't met him or seen him before, now you have a face to put with him to stop out on the streets on a daily basis and ask him questions. You'll appreciate that, I know. Good evening.
Good evening. Honorable mayors, members of the City Council. As the mayor said, I'm James Riley. I'm the new Financial Services Director, and I'll be presenting to you the financial status report for the second quarter ending December 31st, 2013. The focus of this presentation will be on the general fund, and a copy of this presentation has been delivered to your desk as well. The action being requested tonight is for the City Council to approve the recommended revenue and expenditure adjustments noted on Attachment A that was presented to you when you got your packet in the memorandum and as presented in this presentation. The general fund revenues as of the end of December 31st, 2013 are at 36% of the amended budget. That's the actual amounts, which is typical due to the cyclical receipts of revenue. When we add to it the property tax that we received this past January, that brings the percentage up to about 46% actually of our general fund revenues of the amended budget at this time. We normally get our property taxes in January, and then we normally get a big amount in May. Also, the general fund expenditures are at 46% of the amended budget, and this includes a workers' compensation adjustment of $1 million related to several claims that the city has had to pay. Finally, on this last page is just to show a summary of what's in the Attachment A that's in your packet. Like I said, this is just the general fund. The recommendation is to increase the general fund revenue by $4.2 million and to increase the expenditures by the amount of $1.05 million for a net increase in revenue of $3.2 million. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. Will you have a seat at sidebar while we see what we have here? Mr. Clerk, do we have public on this one? Nope. I didn't.
No public.
Thank you. Back to the council. I have no lights on if you had to have questions.
I move approval.
We have a second too, but also Mr. Kern, please.
Well, the question I had about the workers' comp stuff, this is a revenue adjustment just for this year?
Yes, this is for this year, although there will be an effect of it in the future, just because our rates will probably go up a little bit because of that, and we'll need to budget for that, but it's a primarily one-time big hit.
Okay, I just want to make sure that wasn't a reoccurring cost, it was a one-time cost. And I know there'll be a increase in our rates because of this one-time cost.
We are, excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
No,
Councilmember,
please, go ahead.
we are self-insured for workers' comp, and despite the fact that we pay our own rates. So it's a huge hit. Our workers' comp costs are higher than they should be for our size of our city, and we do need to pay attention to that. I think what you'll see the next meeting is a recommendation from our HR director to move forward with the safety program to try and get a better handle on that.
Okay, all right. That was my only concern with that. That's a big number, so thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am aware that there is a proposal for a wellness program, and I think, if we want to make sure this doesn't happen again, $1 million is a lot. And certainly, it's not even reflective of we're not seeing the human aspect of it, we're just seeing the dollars, and these dollars would be better spent. So we don't want to have those accidents. We want to make sure that our employees are safe. We want to make sure that the funds are maximized. And I think this is really Exhibit A for why we should have this wellness program implemented. Thank you.
I see no other lights, but I would like to say this to you, Jim, if you don't mind. We're having a workshop coming up pretty soon regarding everything. I'm sure it's for the city manager to see our feelings on what we see out there, what our expenditures, et cetera, are in the future. I want that too. I would like to have from you or staff is that when we're trying to decide where we're going to spend money or use it, sometimes we don't have an input about where the money really is. Is it in accounts or difference? I know a while back we put $700,000 into sand replenishment. We got about 18 to 21 million back from the redevelopment aspect downtown. We get all these keep coming in all year long. It's hard to put a total on it. Plus we've had finance come in here on many occasions and say they've reevaluated and reissued bonds, saving us millions of dollars. I want to be comfortable at one of these workshops when we talk about everything we'd like to have or should have or can afford. I'd like to know that what kind of money is behind it and where it's at. If it's hidden about in some other account, I don't mean hidden, but in other words set aside somewhere or other, or this development money, if it's only for CIP usage or whatever, I need to know that too when we have that kind of workshop thing. So I'll look at you and you can make your staff panic and try to get all that together. But anyhow, I would appreciate that because we get a short blip from this. Sometimes we hear from the public and sometimes we don't. But anyhow, for that purposes, I appreciate it. I'm going to ask for a vote after I hear what the city manager has to say. And then you have item number 24 also. Yes. Mr. Jepson, please.
Mr. Mayor, I was just going to compliment you on your comment, and it's a wonderful segue into our finance director's next item as soon as you take action on this one.
Thank you. And we have no further questions. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Mr. Riley, if you want to stay there and present it or stand at your choice, please. Item number 24, I'll let the city clerk.
Item number 24 is a 5-year financial forecast.
Thank you, sir, and you're back at the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and City Council members. This presentation is our 5-year forecast. We're calling it fiscal year 2014-15 and beyond. To begin our discussion, we're just going to take a look at the general fund fiscal year 2013-14 amended budget. And we'll just be looking at those items that are the reoccurring revenue and the reoccurring expense items. As you can see by this slide, our reoccurring revenue is $125 million. And our top three sources of revenue are property taxes at 39%, sales tax at 21%, and the mystery internal services at 19.6%. It's not really a mystery, just the internal services are actually revenues that the general fund receives from enterprise funds that we have here in the city. As you can see, our sales tax at $21 million or 17% is actually our second highest revenue source. But for a community of our size, it is actually fairly low. We'll see more of this later in another slide as we discuss our sales tax. General fund recurring expenditures for the fiscal year are budgeted at $122 million. Personnel costs make up 70% of this total, which is not unusual for municipalities. And our next slide will give us a breakdown of what makes up that cost. Internal service charges are our second item, 16%, and these are charges that departments pay for risk management, fleet management, workers' comp insurance, information services, and other administrative services. And then the last big chunk, 13%, goes for maintenance and operations. Now, as I said, we were going to talk a little bit more about our personnel costs. As you can see, the breakdown of the $86 million is as such. 63% of it is our compensation costs. The next big chunk, 15%, is our pension costs. That's our PERS, but it does not include our pension obligation bonds, which is another 4% by itself. So if you combine those two together, we actually have pension obligations that we're paying, or pension costs of 19%. And then health insurance on there is 8%. Those make up the three main items on that chart. We're going to take a look, going to go and look in the past a little bit in getting ready to project toward the future. And so we're going to take a look at the historical general fund trend for the fiscal years 2006-7 to 2014. As you can see, if you look at our line there, our red line, which is our expenditures for fiscal year 2009-10, it was a point where our revenues hit a peak of $122 million, but there's a big gap there between that red line and the blue line, which is revenue. In fiscal year 2010-11, we hit a low in our revenues of about $112 million. And what took up that gap during that time period is we had to go into our reserves to make up that difference. As we've come out of the recession, we've slowly seen an increase in our revenues versus our expenditures. We're going to highlight some of the items in the forecast. We're going to look at three of our revenue items: sales tax trends, property tax trends, and our TOT, or transit occupancy taxes. And we're going to look at a couple of key expenditures, healthcare and PERS. Oh, I got a little bit ahead of myself. Oh, there we go. We're going to look first at our sales and use tax. As you can see by that line that says recovery line, we had a peak in 2006-2007 of about $19.5 million before the recession, and then that blue line took a big dip down, but it has come back up, and in fiscal year 2013, we recovered that loss, and we're now projected to be at $21 million in sales tax in 2013-14. And this is an increase of about $1.5 million over that 2006-2007 number. And as you can see, we go up from there with an estimate of about 2.3% increase over the next 5 years. While this is good news, our next slide will show how our sales per capita compares with the other nearby cities. The city of Oceanside is that thick, turquoise blue line, unfortunately down toward the bottom, that shows 2.5 per capita or sales per population. We're down there neck and neck with the city of San Clemente, who happens to be just north of us. We have Camp Pendleton in common, and the ocean in common on the other side. It takes a little bit of our real estate away. The top one is the city of Carlsbad that has 6,200 per capita, which is 2.5 times that of Oceanside. And the major factors in that difference relate to the fact that they have tremendous amount of auto dealerships there in Carlsbad, and then they have the outlet center as well as a mall, and so people go there to shop. I heard a joke that since they have so much of Oceanside money there being spent, we ought to utilize their parks and other things. Spend your money here in Oceanside, do a little bit of play in Carlsbad so you can get your money's worth for what we've been spending there in Carlsbad. Or of course the alternative is to get more auto dealerships and clothing and malls. Next we'll look at the property tax, which normally lags our sales tax by 12 to 18 months. And so we can see that our pre-downturn peak, which was 4.9 million, was in 08, 09. This recovery time has been a little slower as we have not recovered we haven't recovered that peak amount yet. We anticipate that happening in fiscal year 14-15. And we also see that just in this last year, from fiscal year 13-14 to 14-15, we're predicting a 3.3% increase and then a 2% increase over that. And that's just a conservative number. As the values come back up, we could be getting more and recovering more than just that 2%. Our TOT trends, our transit occupancy tax reached a high in 2008-2009, pre-recession. We have already recovered that money, and with the addition of the new Spring Hill Hotel that just opened a few weeks ago, we're projecting a 9% increase going from fiscal year 13-14 to 14-15, and then a conservative increase of 2% after that. Next, we'll look at the expenditure side, and this is one of those charts that would look much better if it was a revenue chart, or at least the first part where we see that blue line going up, up, up. In fact, during the period between fiscal year 11-12 and fiscal year 13-14, there was a 36% increase in health costs. And so at the negotiation table with our various bargaining units, they all agreed to allow the city to cap the health care costs. And that's why you see that dotted line after you get past 13-14 of being straight with no increase. That's assuming that we continue with that trend in future bargaining agreements with our various bargaining units. And then of course there's PERS, which just seems to go on and on and on. The costs, it seems like they find new reasons to increase it every year. In fact, we just recently came through a period of time where just this recently, about a couple of weeks ago, that PERS increased their rates for the third time in 2 years related to longevity. They estimated that men would live 2 more years longer than they estimated, and women 1.5 years. I really thought there was something wrong with that because women always live longer than men. But in this case, they were saying that we would live 2 years additional longer according to their calculations. As we see these costs continue to go up over the next 8 years, where these 3 increases will be in effect, they're phasing in a couple of these over a 5-year period. We can see a 78% increase in PERS, or a $9.4 million increase. And that is just talking about our general fund costs. That doesn't include the increase that there would be on the enterprise funds. So based upon these assumptions that we looked at in these prior graphs, and based upon other assumptions that we looked at for revenues and expenditures, we're projecting a surplus when you get out to those last 5 years on that graph of approximately $4 million over the next 5 years. However, this increment of $4 million can only be spent one time on reoccurring expenses. So next year, if $2 million of it is used, then that line cuts to $2 million. If the whole $4 million is used, then the whole $4 million is used up at that time. We thought it would be fun to just look at what the trend would look like if we didn't have those PERS increase. And you can see that without the increase in the PERS costs, that our surplus when we got to fiscal year 18-19 would actually be closer to $11.45 million, which could be used in a variety of ways to help our community. Some priorities that you as the council have shared with staff in the past that have been funded are listed above. The RCS radios were spoken of tonight by our battalion chief. Building maintenance, we're now setting aside $150,000 a year. There's maintenance to happen on the San Luis Way River, which when we finally accept it will be $500 a year. And then there was the discussion and proposal about the big red fire truck or the fire apparatus of $500,000 a year. The $500,000 a year for the big red truck wasn't included in the forecast that's presented before you. Also, there were some other items. As you can see, there's fixed one-time costs that have either been funded through our sale that we had last year of the motor home, or through other sources of revenue. Push the wrong button. There we go. Other items not included in the financial forecast are related to our workers' comp increase. We talked about employee raises, any new positions, or restoration of services, or any new services that the city may decide to do. We basically just looked at it flat based upon certain factors with no change in staff, no new contracts, no anything like that, just for purposes of doing the forecast. Now, in the question of our general fund reserves, which is something that the mayor had mentioned, this is currently what our available reserves are. Our Healthy City Fund of $14.5 million, Infrastructure Reserve of $3 million, Economic Stability Fund of $3.7, and then we have unallocated capital, or basically it's unallocated, unassigned one-time funds of about $7.6 million. We also have some committed reserves for post-employment leave, the police CAD system, and then from the sale of the Laguna Vista motorhome project, we were able to set aside money for beach sand replenishment, $3 million for beach area restrooms, and some money that goes toward the Mission Cove. This final chart just gives an idea of where we've been as far as our general fund reserve. You can see that we were at a peak in June 30th, 2008 of about $37.3 million. And that includes the Healthy City, the Infrastructure Reserve, the Economic Stabilization Fund, and also unallocated monies. And then in year 2011, we hit a low of 20.7 in reserves. However, during all that time, we maintained our Healthy Cities. It grew from 9 million to 14.5 million. Our infrastructure reserve went down, but it has maintained about 3 million over the last several years. You can see our economic stabilization fund has maintained itself. It's about 3.7 million, and that we are coming up in our unallocated reserves. And that concludes my presentation. I want to thank the staff members of the Financial Services Department that helped me with putting together the forecast, and also the city manager for his assistance in putting it together. I'm going to pass a copy of the presentation to you. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern, please.
There's no public side.
I'm sorry.
There's no public side.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. No public, so
Yeah,
Mr.
the
Kern.
clerk just said there's no public on this, so we'll go straight to this.
Yeah.
Couple question, and obviously, you know, we get hung up on jobs to household ratio, but I think our biggest problem is sales tax leakage. Yeah, you know, that people that don't spend money here, so the idea of building those facilities that generate sales tax, and I see the city manager is punching his button. Go ahead, if you want to make a comment now.
No, I'm just waiting for you. That's a good observation.
Oh, okay. And then the other question I had is that 2% projection of increase. How, I guess the level of confidence that you have that's going to be a 2% increase over a period of time?
For the property tax or the sales tax?
Well, the sales use tax is about 2.3%. Some of these other things are about 2%. Is that something that's, are we being very conservative on those estimates? Are we?
We're kind of between being conservative and being aggressive. We're kind of in the middle between there. If I had my accountant only hat on, it'd probably be closer to 1% or 0, but then that's my accountant hat to be totally real conservative. A more realistic picture, I think, is this 2% area. Beyond that, to me, would be totally aggressive, but I think that it's a reasonable number.
And I thought Councilmember Feline and I were conservative in our estimations of what's going on. And actually, I find it kind of unique to when Councilmember Feline came on the council, that's when the numbers changed. The big flip came when as far as that trend line. So maybe he can take all the credit for that or something. But no, that's the only other thing. And so we have basically $4 million in that gap, but that is not a reoccurring number. That $4 million is one-time money.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I want to make sure.
It one time from the standpoint that if we use reoccurring expense for it, it reduces down what that number will be.
Okay. All right, that was kind of my comments, and actually, you know, that last slide where it shows what would happen without the PERS cost. I think that's something that people really have to be aware of what our PERS costs are going to be. That 78% increase over 8 years is very substantial.
Yes.
And that's just if they don't change it again, or they actually come up with a real rate of return and sock it to the cities even more, we may be upside down. So the idea of trying to hold on to that $4 million as much as possible to see what PERS does in the next few years, because it may get worse. Because they've, what, 2 changes in the last 3 years? Or 3?
Yeah, actually 3 now in the last 2 years.
year.
And in figuring the longevity increases they just approved in February, they gave us some numbers that were arranged. They didn't give us, you know, exact numbers, and we used the middle of that range. So it's very possible it could be even more, or it's possible it could be a little less.
Okay. And that's all my comments, and I saw the city manager was slamming on his light, so I'm going to wait to see what kind of comment.
Councilmember Feline, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was kind of amazed at the chart on the recurring expenditures, and I want to make sure on the item related to the general fund reserve history on page 17, where we see a decline in the infrastructure reserve, where apparently we were spending money on infrastructure projects that have been placed aside. And then on page 12, the spike in basically 09 and 010, where you're basically labeling it as a recurring expenditure. So I want to make sure the infrastructure expenditure did not cause this spike in the recurring expenditure. Is that correct? Okay, so then, yeah, because that would have been the easy answer there. So then, in reviewing the figures, did you look at what caused that spike? Because, of course, we would all expect the revenues to go down because of the recession and the impact to the city, and that certainly did happen. You see the decrease in the revenues, but I think that anyone looking at this chart would be shocked at the spike in expenditures that went on from the 08-09 fiscal year into the 09-10 fiscal year. Did you look into that and see what caused that spike?
Yes. Let me make sure I have the right page, because you were mentioning page 12?
Yes, page 12, your general fund financial trend. Oh.
Yes, I know that we had some changes in the way that we accounted for some of the expenditures, but I'll be honest, I need to do a little more research to be more specific on that.
I guess
did
what I'm
look at
interested in,
that.
I would be, if you're not comfortable speaking now and we can go back into it, what my interest is, are these expenditures that were unavoidable somehow related to the recession, or were they voluntary decisions to spend more than we were receiving? And, and that's obviously a council decision to do that, and I would just like to have that detail at some point.
I know that at some time during that time period, I think new contracts with the bargaining units, new MOUs were put into place, and that was part of the effect of that. As far as how much of that, I'll have to research, but I do know there were several new contracts that came into place during that time.
And then the other point I'd like to just emphasize is a statement for my colleagues on page 12 as well, the $4 million surplus, as I'm reading it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, that's a cumulative surplus over the 5 years, of which we're spending approximately $125 million per year. So you're dealing roughly with cumulative budgets of $600 to $700 million there, with a $4 million surplus. That's basically a rounding error, right?
Well, no, the $4 million actually, if you just looked at a report and just looked at each year, you'd actually have a surplus of $4 million each year.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah.
$4 million per year. Okay.
Right. But if you spend it 1 year, that reduces it in the future years.
But
He ended
even
up
with
saying
that,
$4
it's
million.
still, well, that's certainly better news. I certainly think it's not a large amount in proportion to the fluctuations that we could receive, and this, of course, assumes no future recession. And, and as Councilman Kern pointed out, I mean, we need to be responsible with this in building up our reserves, making sure our deferred maintenance is taken care of, and that no one's planning any kind of spending sprees here with the money. But thank you very much for the presentation, very professional, and you had big shoes to fill coming in. I really enjoyed working with Terry Farrow, but looks like you'll be just as good as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Mr. City Manager, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, council members. I just had a couple comments on other comments that have been made. Council member Kern had mentioned the issue regarding sales tax. The chart that shows us in relationship to surrounding communities, there's a tremendous amount of sales tax leakage out of Oceanside for a lot of reasons. And I think that people in Oceanside need to understand that the stuff that they purchase within our community, the money stays within the community and pays for police and fire and parks and libraries. So it is important, if you have a discretionary purchase, to consider giving Oceanside business an opportunity to earn your trust, and certainly buying local is going to help out our community. I say that with the understanding that we are very much a regional economy, though, because Councilmember Kern had also mentioned the jobs housing balance. And a job in Carlsbad or Vista is as good as a job in Oceanside. It is very much a regional issue, not just a local issue in terms of our ability to attract and retain good-paying jobs. Councilmember Feline had noted on the projections that Finance Director had made where the lines diverged a few years ago. We did talk about that rather large discrepancy for a couple of years, and the city had made some adjustments in how they did accounting, but we adjusted the chart to reflect that as well. So what you're seeing is an adjustment that probably more accurately reflected the true expenditures. Had we left it with the accounting adjustments, it would have been much more dramatic. And I think what happened was a recognition at that point. You'll see a drop off in those expenditures that occurred the following 2 years. What I would call an employee diet, where the community was cutting back on positions that were vacant, leaving them open, and that was in recognition for the ongoing recession that I think we all had anticipated would have ended sooner than it actually did. But you're on the right track now, and there's some things that we're going to want to talk about next week at the workshop that are much more pragmatic and not necessarily long-range goals that we want to be a better community or we want to have more public safety, but what exactly do we want? We have already identified that we've paid for half of the radio system. We have to pay for the other half of the radio system, so that's another $500,000 of the $4 million. We need to purchase a fire apparatus every year. That's another $500,000 of the $4 million. So you have plenty of things to talk about when you get together and decide what those priorities are. I do believe that the finance director, I had to beat him up a little bit to get him to move off of the conservative track, and finance directors do that. Well, you probably know that, finance guy. Yeah, they don't want to be wrong, so they're usually pretty conservative. That the 2% number for the property tax is what the cap is on the Prop 13. It can and probably will go up the next 2 or 3 years more than the 2%, because we have to recover the reductions that were made, and so it can exceed the 2% short term. But as you move out and projections get a little more fuzzier, 2% is a pretty good an estimate. Both Mr. Riley and I have a little different perspective coming from other communities, that things have come back better here in Oceanside. We're coastal, we're San Diego County based, and the economy is doing better here than it is other places in the state. So we're pleased with where we are, and pleased to be able to give you this information. I think it is comprehensive, particularly with regard to where your monies are in the reserve accounts, which the mayor had made a question about. You have done a good job of bringing back some of those reserves. So the council should be pretty proud of the performance that you've had the last few years and where you have the city positioned right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there's a lot of there are a lot of stories that are not being told with these numbers and these graphs. Though it's good to have that graphs and good to have like a picture of of the actual expenses and expenditures, but we have been doing things differently, the council. We've always passed a balanced budget. We've never, ever, I've been here, this is my 14th year, never have passed, we were previously a general law city, and we couldn't. It was against the law to ever spend more money than your revenues. So always passed a balanced budget. At some point, though, there were some differences in accounting. I remember the first shock that I got that I was spending a lot of money as a council member when the debt service to this building was divided into, was made into equal to rent. So I'm actually paying rent, or I should say, I'm being charged rent for my office space. And that was a big shocker. It's like, how is it that I'm spending all this money? Well, by just being a council member and sitting in my office, that was one thing. There are other things that are not being taken into consideration here. We have a number of projects that have been approved over the years that are finally getting started, and I'm really excited about that. Our beach resort that is going to bring, a lot more people to Oceanside, this tourism and sales tax. And I do believe that jobs to residence ratio is a problem for us, because if you're not working here, if you don't have a job here, when you go to lunch, or you decide to go shopping during lunchtime, you're going to be doing that where you work, and that is in another city. So if we need to have these jobs here, that is going to increase. When you have jobs, you've got that opportunity to have that money spent. You have people having more money to be able to spend right back in Oceanside. So we have a very proud tradition here, Oceanside businesses. We have small businesses, and several of them tend to live in Oceanside, and so we're very proud of patronizing our businesses. But we really need to work on that, which I think is another story to us, to tell us that we have to stop flipping commercially zoned land into residential, because we only have X amount of land left, and that is zoned commercial. That's our jobs, and if we keep turning those into residential, we're never going to get there. We're never going to change that dynamic. We're always going to be just that bedroom community where we never get that sales tax up. So, also it tells us that we need to start looking at the kinds of businesses. We need to increase the number of businesses that come to Oceanside, but they've got to be sales producing, generating businesses, i.e., warehouses don't tend to do that. We've just got to be able to do, to think in terms of sales. So all of that having been said, yeah, there's a whole lot more that we can talk about, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having some of our ideas considered in terms of what our priorities should be, which for me, it's increasing the number of jobs. For me, it's also making sure that these projects continue to go forward to get those extra, more of that TOT with those additional hotels. El Corazon, we were just told, hey, if we get this on, we're going to start seeing money generated in Oceanside. So all of these things are not being captured, but certainly if we do none of these things, then yes, it is being captured. This is it for us. For me, this is not what we're about. We have a lot of challenges, but I do believe that there's a lot of hope for us. There's a lot of really positive things going on, a lot of ingenuity. We've got Roddy at the Flying Pig. I don't know if Roddy's going to hear this. Farm to table. I mean, if we could start having this synergy with our ag land, and I've even heard, hey, why don't we start, this whole idea of farm to table even to our breweries, growing hops and bringing them to our, so that there's that connection and that all of that business staying in Oceanside. So. I think there's a lot that we can talk about in terms of commercial activity and economic activity in our city, and this is the kick in the pants. I think that this is what we need to start doing. Thanks, or continue to do.
Councilmember Lane, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I hate to be the skunk at the garden party, but I do have to challenge my colleague on what a definition of a balanced budget is here. And a balanced budget is when you basically are not spending more than you're receiving. And for many years, we did spend more than we received. Spending money from the reserves is not a balanced budget. You're allocating everything and accounting for it, but it is still a deficit budget when you spend more than you receive. And when through '08 and '09 and '10, we spent more than we received, and that's a deficit budget. And we had to cut those costs to get back in balance. So I just don't understand the claim that we had 14 balanced budgets in a row when the evidence in front of us clearly indicates otherwise. And maybe this lack of understanding explained the deficit budgets that we've had. But let's be honest in what we're saying here at the dais about what our budgets really have been.
I think we're on wind down here. I appreciate it. The only thing I will say, ladies and gentlemen, it's been some very tough years for not just Oceanside, but everybody. When it first happened, we were looking to blame somebody or point a finger at. I felt comfortable pointing at the state of California. And I remember, if I'm correct, they took $14 million out of my budget one time, but they promised to give it back. That would certainly help my budget if they decided to give it back any time. I appreciate that. They haven't yet. Things are tough. We're the largest city in North San Diego County, and we're a very diverse city. I think that's important. I see Carlsbad on the top left, and I give them praise for what they've done with their city. But they have money to throw at every issue they have. We usually have a different effect on that, not money, but try to get out and negotiate or do something with the community. I'm looking back and looking at Oceanside was in the 60s and 70s listed as one of the third worst cities in the United States per capita for crime because of the Vietnam War. Look at it then and look at it now, and at what we've done for the city and changed it a lot. We were probably the busiest and most booming city in the San Diego region during and just before the economy bailout problem. Everybody was building here, and that's when it was happening. It all came to a stop, not just here. It was the whole state. Let's be honest about it. Some cities folded under it. We did have a balanced budget. I don't care if you use the reserves or whatever. It was a balanced budget. And we did have a lot of conflict here on the council, and I think we understand. We want to be conservative on the money issues, but also we were really put into office by everybody on the TV screen and out here in the audience for one reason. They want to have us do the best we can for the community financially, but let's face it, most of the people in this city that moved here want to make sure they do things, quality of life, living, all the nice things we expect and want. Those all cost money, and over the years we let go a lot of people in the city that were employees who provided all those services. So we did cut and we did try to make changes. We've made some. We were a balanced budget, and we're still doing fine here in the city. I look at Carlsbad, and I said they did a better job than us. They're a different type of city, high-end, no doubt about it, and I pat them on the back. On the other hand, for what we've talked about tonight is, in the future, we need to bring more things to Oceanside, spend our money here. We understand that. Through that tough time, we used some of our reserves. Certainly we used our reserves because we knew we couldn't cut any deeper without really cutting into issues such as quality of life and public safety. You see in the pie chart where the money goes to, public safety. Look at every election in the past probably and find out one of the top 3 items by the whole city will be public safety, police and fire. You have to pay for it, and remember, because we spent a lot more money on our police and fire, our crime rate went down about 37%, and everybody, including the military, said Oceanside has drastically changed its image, and that was what it was all about. I didn't want to go to San Diego or some other city and say, oh, you're from Oceanside, that crime-ridden military town. Well, part of that was the draft. Remember, the military were drafting people in Vietnam, so every loser in the country came to Camp Pendleton, it seemed like, and he got VCD'd, which is bad conduct, kicked out, and they walked him out of the front gate Camp Pendleton and said, you're out of the military. and drop them in our city. Well, we've worked on that through police and fire, and we've changed it a lot. Our image is fantastic. I hope it still keeps going up, and we'll work hard at that. What I will say is I don't want to bounce the budget on the backs of our employees. I certainly don't want to bounce the budget on the backs of our seniors and veterans in our community, which happened recently in some of our issues. And I think for me, as much as the money was important for every issue, we got through this tough times, hopefully. And I got to say that I think we'll do well. I sometimes think that sometimes my priorities are not necessarily all the great budgets and reserves as much as it is the people, the services they want from us, and how we can continue to give them those at a better cost. Our city manager and staff have done a wonderful job about that. Here we are, our biggest city, and we're a balanced budget and a little bit of money in the spare. However, like Carlsbad, who has like $64 million or something in their reserves, that's nice. However, if I was a taxpayer in Carlsbad, I would be saying, you know, I'd rather have that money in my pocket in my bank account than you have it in your reserves. You're taxing me too heavy. And are you giving it to your employees? That's the city who wants to outsource everybody and wants a second-tier system and all those things. So I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes, and I'm kind of rambling here because I think we did a pretty good job protecting our citizens. I hope things go well. If we can have more hotels, which we are. We're a tourism city, military town, and I think we're going in that direction. Industrial, all the North County mayors meet all the time along with their staff, their EDC, the mayors, and city managers all the time to try to bring more revenues to the North County because San Diego's built out. All the future buildings seems to be coming North San Diego County. I hope that will help us because all those tax monies and all those sales we do here makes us be able to provide the things you, the public, want. Safety, fire, police, all those things. Keep a clean beach, clean air. And I always get a big kick out that this town is very strong Republican because it's here by a military base. But you know what? Republicans are funny. Once they come into a town that's a beach community, they're still ultra-conservative on their financial issues, but all of a sudden they become environmentalists because they want a clean beach, a clean water. They don't want a building block in their view. They want quality of life issues, and all of a sudden that's important. That's what those people and everybody else wants from all of us, quality of life issues with a balanced budget. Why should I have $64 million in reserve? I don't have that much, but you know what? All the things that you want, we provide. If I was in a city that had that much in the reserves, I'd be angry saying, why aren't you spending it for more good things for me, or give it back to me and I'll spend it the way I think's best. So it's kind of a balancing act there with rich cities and us. So again, I want to thank our new financial director and his staff. I know how that works. I appreciate it. Our city manager is going to have a workshop to try to address a lot of this stuff. Please show up if you wish, or send us emails. That's the new world. People don't call us anymore, they send us emails. Come to the council, or all of us, talk to these things. I see people in the audience, first time here, want to talk to us. They want to see what's going on. You're always welcome. Come and see us and talk to us. But again, ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy bouncing the budget out, and that's why we have a city manager and city attorney. And that's why you see most of them going gray, or way past that. And hopefully they continue to do a great job for us. And again, thank you all for giving your input from the television to an email to us, and hopefully we'll consider that and do nice things. And I see from those charts we're moving in an upward direction finally. I'm happy. It could be better, but you know what? I still think that we're not in the business of getting a big reserve and taking it from you, the ladies and gentlemen who pay taxes, and be able to brag to you that we have a lot of money in reserves, but we don't use it for you. So I'm not too upset that we have a reserve, but not necessarily killing your budget and writing your checks to us just to make us look good. So thank you all for tonight. But I'm mainly going to say something later, but this is truly an item for interest. No vote on this is correct. this direction to staff. Thank you for that. And the only thing else I have to say is I'm going to adjourn this here in a minute, and I wanted you to know that the Mayor's Council Workshop is at 2 o'clock Wednesday, March 12th at the San Luis Rey Water Reclamation Facility, the Turner Room. I know none of you people out there know where that's at, but you can call us, get information on the website, and you'll point it out where it's at. Thank you very much. Other than that, Mr. Clerk, is that everything?
That is everything.
Thank you. I will adjourn. Thank you for your time. Be safe and have a good one.